Hello and welcome to the Clock and Talk, an Arsenal podcast. Thank you for listening. Thank you for downloading. You can follow us at Twitter at clockend_talk. Each and every week I'm accompanied by two young fellows, and we'll start with my co-host Tony. How are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. First time I've been called young in a while, so I'll take that. But then I suppose compared to you, most people are. Yeah, good, thanks. Could be better, but as Arsenal fans, we all know that feeling.
Yes, we do. And Schwinn, how are you, buddy?
Doing very well. Hope you boys are all right.
Flying high, mate. Well as expected, anyway. Boys, we got a heap of questions to get through. We've got a heap of live callers coming up. So I think we'll just get straight into it. And I want to touch on with you boys first. And Tony, when the lineup came out, what was your thoughts there, mate?
Very shocked at Iwobi being played. Very shocked at Xhaka starting, as we discussed last week. Wasn't so surprised with Ramsey not being in the side because, as I said, and I was quite strong on it last week, I don't think he'll ever play in that 10. Well, it wasn't even a 10, it was so high up. I think Ramsey can't play in that position, so I wasn't so surprised. When I saw the formation, I wouldn't have been surprised if they changed the formation and kept Ramsey in and gone with a flat 3. That's probably what I expected. But once I saw it was going 4-2-3-1, there was no surprise for me that Ramsey was dropped, which I know surprised a lot of other people. But apart from that, as I said, Iwobi was a bit of a shock. And Xhaka, I thought, would probably be dropped. I think, as discussed, we all pretty much expected Czech to stay in just because of how good he was keeping-wise against City. I know he was poor with his feet. And that's what happened. He obviously kept his place in the team.
Yep. Schwinn, what was your thoughts, mate?
The formation, as we spoke last week, I expected a 3-man midfield just because we know that Sarri likes to play with 3 men in the middle of the park, and they're very active on and off the ball. I just thought it would make sense for us to be in numbers with them in terms of going head to head, and it was a bit confusing that we had Ozil at 10 and not on the wing and had an extra body, whether that was Torreira or Ramsey in with Granit Xhaka and Guendouzi. So a bit of a surprise there. Of course, the way the game panned out, you could see that we were struggling at times to get out, and I think that contributed to that. But, you live and learn.
Tony, mate, just give us your rundown of the game, because we're going to answer a fair few questions based around players and whatnot. So, obviously, look, there was a time there about the first 15 minutes, and then I think 20 minutes they went up 2-0, and then I was sitting there watching it thinking, oh fuck, here we go. You were at the ground, mate. What was the atmosphere like there amongst the Arsenal fans?
Turned toxic very, very quickly. Even at 0-0, I think people were already moaning about the attempts to play out from the back and moaning at Cech and moaning at Bellerin and moaning at Mustafi. That didn't help going 2-0 down, and obviously with missed chances, which makes frustrations at both ends. Obviously, we got back into it and there was a bit more support, but I mean, our fan base is what it is. London games are always the worst for some reason. I think I'm not calling anyone a real fan or not a real fan, because I think it's nonsense when people do it. But when we get London away games, you get the people that don't usually go to away games. And I always feel our away support is very good. And I mean that in terms of actually supporting the team. But in London, it never is. And I feel it's more people there that, I'm not saying they're not Arsenal fans, but they're just more there because it's close and they wouldn't put the effort in to travel. And what I saw yesterday from the fans is what I tend to see in London away games, to be honest. It's no surprise that any time our away fans has had criticism or come up in the press in the last few years, it's always in London. I mean, I remember when Hector got heavily booed, it was at Palace, which obviously is in London. You don't tend to get that stuff further away, even when we've had worse results. But yeah, in terms of the game, there's what's worrying, and I know we're going to get deeper into it later, is there's a lot of the fundamentals that are wrong. So there's individual player mistakes which we know happen, but in terms of like trying to play out from the back, our system, we're set up poorly. We don't have anyone available for a slightly longer ball. I'm watching City right now, and their first goal, if anyone's seen it, is exactly what our issue is, playing out from the back. They have options all over the pitch. We put 2 or 3 people in short, and everyone else switches off. So there's fundamental mistakes, which in time we'll learn. Another fundamental mistake for me is how high our line is. I think that's horrible. And we tried to rectify that in the second half. But I feel they should have known about that in the first place. And all this stuff, I mean, you can see at the ground. Usually with a lot of these things that you kind of miss them when you're in the ground, and then you can see them when you watch back. But at the moment, I think that a lot of the fundamentals are so bad, or not bad, wrong. We're playing them wrong, that it's clearly visible to everyone watching, from no matter where they're watching.
Emery's tactics, like, yeah, I see him on the TV, and I mentioned it to you a few times. I see him doing lots of yelling at players and waving the arms around and whatnot. And they're not school kids. These guys know how to play. At the end of the day, they're professionals. So what's all the yelling and whatnot going on about?
Look, we've had years of Wenger not doing that and people moaning, saying it was needed. We're never not going to know what he's saying, whether it's encouragement. I was listening to, as I was driving home, Mick McCarthy, the former Ipswich, Wolves, and probably a few other clubs' managers. I can't remember off the top of my head. And he was saying that he always felt he gave he's a shouter. He's known as a shouter on the touchline. And he said, look, 80% of what I say is encouragement. And he always says, I feel like I give the players more confidence. And I improve the players by standing there and shouting. Some people have that opinion, other people don't. So
I'm not saying it in a bad way, but just we're not used to seeing it, as you say.
Yeah. So look, I mean, what he's saying, I don't know. It could be tactical. It could be, it could just be shouting encouragement. But whatever, as I said, he feels it works, and fair play to him. He's going to do what he's going to do. As I said, my worry is that I think a lot of our issues are big issues. They're not small issues. Defending 40 yards too high is not an individual player mistake. Yeah. No amount of shouting is going to change that. Or you just got to change your line, or you're going to have to stick with this line and live and die by the sword. I think we're trying to press too much as a team, when in reality you should defend in at least 2 stages of your attacking players defending, and that can be a high press. Look at Liverpool, when everyone goes on about Liverpool's press and how good it is. But they only really press with their front three, Firmino, Salah and Mane, and then maybe a Henderson or Wijnaldum, one of the two. And then everyone else is in a defensive position. The fullbacks may push on to the wingers, but you never see Liverpool on the halfway line defending, and a long ball over the top can catch them. We're trying to press with absolutely everyone, and we're just not quick enough to do it. I don't think anyone's good. I don't think any team can do that, in all honesty. This is not saying we're not quick enough to do it. It's a bit unfair, because I don't think anyone can do it.
Schwinn, what's your thoughts on the lineup, mate, when it come out? And we might have a bit of troubles with Schwinn because his internet isn't the best, but we'll step in if we need to, mate. You with us, buddy?
I am, yeah. I mean, I spoke about the lineup a bit. I don't know if you guys caught that, but I was a bit confused by, that we didn't match them in midfield. But I mean, just going off of what Tony just said, the game in itself I thought was very confusing as well. It was one of those games where we just couldn't get out. The passing wasn't happening. We couldn't involve some of our key players, and in the few instances we did. And I'm speaking about Mesut Ozil here. We just couldn't, get the best out of him. Brian Xhaka was someone we relied upon in terms of moving the ball forward, and we missed him once he went off. But the first 4 passes of the game that he played were all astray, and you would imagine that things got better with time, but they really didn't. I think he was better when he was further advanced up the field, as opposed to starting things at the bottom. Guendouzi struggled to get involved as well, and once he did, then he was more calm, and he was probably one of our better players on the day. But again, I mean, the last week's team was, for me at least, communication and quality. We lacked both last week, and I spoke about that quite a lot on here. Even yesterday, I thought that was the issue. I found myself shouting "man on" at least 10 times at the screen, and it just felt like our team wasn't doing that for their teammates. And of course, I don't need to go over the 4 missed chances from within 12 yards that we should have converted. That score should have been easily 6-2 at halftime, right? Am I missing something here?
Yeah, no, you no argument there from me, mate.
Yeah, so it just felt a bit pedestrian. It felt a bit lethargic,
But I'm
and
not going to
it
hang
just
Aubameyang in that for that, like and I was talking to a couple of mates earlier about it today. Aubameyang, yeah, he missed that chance. Mkhitaryan missed the chance. They're chances that you do expect quality players and great players to get them goals, but sometimes you just have a bad day at the office.
Yeah, I mean that is the explanation for a one-off case, but these chances, especially in a new era when we're still struggling to, well, not struggling, but trying to make things work. These are the chances we have to capitalize on. And I'm not going to sit out here and say that Aubameyang needs to be benched. I will say that about certain other players though, but you expect them to finish that. And I'm not trying to say that he's definitely better than what we saw, right? But it was just very, very maddening to see, which I'm sure all of you would agree that when we are creating those chances and those easy chances, you expect them to finish them off.
Oh, exactly. And if we have, and it's frustrating. That's probably what the word you're looking for. And if we had won the game, we probably wouldn't even be talking about them couple of missed short chances. But because we've lost the game, we're coming at in a little bit of a negativity type of way over it. But listen, I just want to touch on though. What was your thoughts on the couple of the tactics? Obviously Xhaka went off at half time. Ozil, he was substituted 60th minute or something.
Right.
We don't often see that, do we? We've never seen it.
No, we don't. We don't, and I'm glad we did. In terms of Granit Xhaka, I think he had a horrible first half of the first half. But once he went off, we missed him. There's no denying it. You can look at it from your eyes. You can look at it from a statistics point of view. We missed him. We didn't move the ball forward as well as we should have. I think, other than being a bit more, in terms of disciplining him because he had a tough half. I think the yellow card factor into that decision. And as for Mesut Ozil, I like the fact that our boss is taking decisions that would be considered bold, and in otherwise situation they would be considered obvious. You think a Pep Guardiola or a Mourinho is not going to pull out players if they're not having a good half? You're mistaken. And for me, Mesut Ozil did not have a good game. We can get into why that was the case. I think we struggled to get him involved to a large degree, but then you expect him to move around and involve himself. And unfortunately, that was only happening when he was dropping deeper or opening channels for his teammates. He did that very well, actually, because we created 4 reverse ball chances because of the space he vacated. That penalty spot position where Iwobi had a chance. I think Mkhitaryan had a chance, and then true from Aubameyang, of course. So I like that we're moving in that direction. I like that Ramsey was benched after not having a good game on the opening day of the season, but it didn't improve us. And that remains the bigger question for me. You can get these players out, but if you're not able to influence the game, and the second half was very, very poor in that, from that point of view. So I like that we're being bold, but to what avail, I guess would be my counter question.
Look, I'm not gonna. I won't. We won't touch too much on the players because we've got a heap of questions on it. To be honest, so we will get involved in it soon. But Tony, I want to go back on over to you and just touch on this defence and how does he fix it? We've got
drops 30 yards.
Yeah, well, that's one, yeah. But we've got some
I
really
honestly think
games.
it's as simple as that.
Yeah, just drop them back, get back.
Yeah, I mean, look, I can understand we're going to be a bit further forward against the likes of West Ham, Cardiff, and Newcastle, which are our next 3 games. But in general, I don't think even against these poor teams, I say poor teams, I don't mean it slightly worse than Chelsea and City, but you think Marco Arnautovic isn't going to enjoy Socrates and Mustafi defending on the halfway line? He's going to have a field day. I understand that it makes the ball easier to get back because you're compacting their space, the other team's space. Their midfield's got no room. But it just means one long ball catches you every time. And if their strikers faster than our defenders, and they're going to be because we haven't got fast defenders and the defenders are going to be on the turn, then you're going to be in trouble every time. So I think against teams like West Ham and Newcastle and Cardiff, we should be maybe 20 yards deeper. Against teams like Chelsea, City, and whatnot, we've got to be at least 30 deeper. And for me, well, I mean, look, that takes out 2 of their goals yesterday. If we're defending on the edge of the box or 25 yards out, Chelsea's first 2 goals yesterday don't happen. And they could go on to score other ways. We don't know. But the first 2 goals were so easy. And you look in the second half when we was pretty much we had our backs to the wall against the whole half, and we was deep. And yeah, they scored and it was a sloppy goal, but they had 1 chance really, and maybe the Kante header. They had 2 chances in the first half when we was defending high. They got in behind 4 or 5 times. So I think just a simple change like that makes such a big difference.
Yeah, no, it's a worry. Okay, any else you want to add on this game, boys, before we get into some questions? Because so we've got a heap of them.
Just one thing I want to get into. Everyone keeps going on about us playing out from the back and whatnot.
Yep.
First thing I'm going to say is I think it's too slow. We're not moving the opposition about because we're moving the ball too slow. And that's the aim, is to break the opposition's defensive systems. The other thing is everyone's acting like we were a long ball team for the last 22 years. Have I been watching? I know it wasn't as much as it is now, but surely we played from the back anyway. Just we've done it. We were more direct than we are now. That's obvious. But everyone's acting like we used to be Stoke. I don't get it.
Yeah, we didn't play. Look, the last couple of games, or the last 2 games, you can see the way Emery wants to set the team up, and you can see by the amount of they're playing from the back with using check and whatnot. I don't think we did that as much under Wenger.
I think we played up from the back, but we didn't put ourselves under pressure. Whereas now I think we're taking pressure. But look, I'm not criticising the system. I'm criticising the view that they're now playing out from the back like we used to just smash it long and hope, which is far from the case.
Yeah. What's your thoughts on it, Schwinn? I'll get your opinion, mate.
I think it's just over-analysis to an extent, and I fall victim to that pretty heavily. I think a lot of times, people try to, especially on Twitter, right, where you're restricted to 280 characters. I think you have to be very generic in the way you speak. So it's possible Tony is speaking from a personal standpoint where he has had a conversation with someone who was maybe writing a bit too heavily on the playing out from the back thing. I can see the point people are trying to make, and there's a lot of, diagnosis and dissection of what's going on. So I'm not overly fussed about that because obviously playing out from the back, quote unquote, is an issue at the moment. So, people are not comparing it to what happened in the past. They're just maybe speaking of it in isolation. I'm speculating here because obviously I cannot speak for someone else. But I think the bigger point in this conversation is what Tony mentioned briefly about not being quick enough. When you look at some of our attacking players, we don't have the most amount of pace in our team, right? That's why we were shouting out for a pacey winger. Now, when you have the likes of Iwobi, who slowed down a bit, Hector Bellerin, who slowed down a bit, Mesut Ozil and Mkhitaryan, who weren't the quickest anyway, you have to make sure that you suck out the opposition so that when the ball gets to them, they are in stride and they don't have to, get behind to get on the ball or receive the ball with their back towards goal. I think too often we fall victim to that, and we're just unable to make anything out of it. To be fair, however, one of the goals we scored yesterday was a very, very good goal in terms of playing out from the back. I think it was Mkhitaryan's goal, wasn't it? Or was it?
As the second, it was Iwobi's.
It was Iwobi's goal. That's the one.
Yeah.
So it's working, right? It's just that the times when it doesn't work, we don't have the recovery to deal with it, and that comes back to speaking about the defensive line because we have Granit Xhaka, who's very metronomic, very good on the ball at times. But you can't blame him for not being quick enough. You have to put him in a position where he doesn't have to rely on his pace, and those things will come with time. I mean, at least that's what I'm hoping for. So these games in the beginning, Chelsea, City, are good because they're telling us what obviously doesn't work. My concern here is, do we continue to do this against a West Ham or an Everton who might still be able to exploit this, or does Emery go into his office and change things around? We need to make sure that the team changes depending on who we're playing, and so does the system with it. And from what I've heard from Emery in the press conference, he seems pretty inclined to do that. So hopefully this has been a good learning curve and we can move on. We don't have a tough fixture now until the day after Christmas, I think. So we have an opportunity to pick up a lot of momentum and use
United
these.
away in the first week in December.
Okay, so we don't have any big teams anyway, so that's pretty good.
I think, have we not got Tottenham in November? We usually do. I've not looked at the fixture list, but we always have them before the 20th of November, usually at home.
I doubt it from what I've seen, and which was a while ago, so my memory isn't the sharpest either. But I don't think we have a big game. We might have United, but we don't have
United's
anyone.
definitely United away is a midweek in the first week in December. But Tottenham, the random computer randomly generates us at Tottenham at home in the first 2 weeks of November every year for the last 7 years, I think it is. So I would be surprised if not. Of course, the computer is random, so it could be a case it's not.
Well, you talk about big games though, Schwinn, and I'm looking here. We have
we've got Liverpool at home on the 3rd of November.
Well, we've got Everton in September. I type of see that as a pretty big game as well.
And then Tottenham home December 2nd, United away that midweek.
Yeah, Tottenham's first week of December, 2nd of December.
Yeah, well, that'll be moved to the 3rd because we'll be in Europa League.
Yeah.
But then that United is that midweek, which is about the 5th, I think, 5th or 6th.
Yeah, and we've got Liverpool.
When did you say we play Everton?
Mate, we got Everton coming up on it's 24th of September for me. So what, 23rd for you guys? Sunday.
Yeah.
That's a big game. That's a big game against Everton. That's straight after Cardiff, Newcastle, Everton.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, maybe it's not all the way up to Liverpool, which I see is in November. But we have some games in the middle. That's sort of the point I was trying to make, and I do stand corrected, of course, in terms of not having big games in the middle. But even and Everton, yes, they have the talent, but you'd expect us to go out there and beat them, right? Tottenham and United, of course, are going to be bigger challenges than that. I just think that this has been a good learning experience. I think that's one of the big positives to take out of this. And considering the next 3-4 games at least, I think that should come in handy if Emery does make the changes that that he thinks we should make.
I was just looking at the ladder and I was looking at a couple of teams because I was going to ask, and we're at 17th, so we're not doing real fucking good ourselves. But I was going to say, if we had played a West Ham who are sitting and a Huddersfield who are dead last on these first 2 games, and we had to beat them 2 teams, and I know this is hypothetically, right? And we had to beat them 2 teams 2-0, 3-0, whatever, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation now.
No, of course not.
We'd be going, oh, shit, we like Emery's football. And you wouldn't even hear, as you said, Tony, the criticism that, you were talking about before. The this and that and whatnot. It'd be, oh, shit, we like Emery. Emery, yeah, legend. So I think a bit of patience has to come. We've just played possibly Chelsea, for me, major underdogs, who they could. I don't think they'll get up there against City, but they will push for a top 4, and they're no knockabout teams. So we can't be too hard. We just need to be a little bit patient. I feel. So each and every week we chat to a couple of listeners, and this week we've decided to bring the schedule forward so we could chat to a couple of Australian listeners. Glenn, how are you, mate?
Good, thanks, mate. How are you?
Yeah, good, buddy. Good. What was your thoughts on the game yesterday?
Yeah, well, pretty disappointing with the fact that we went 2-0 down, but I was very encouraged by we came back to make it 2-2. But obviously we conceded late to lose the game, but overall, I was quite happy with it. And what impressed me the most was how Emery was encouraging, even with the sitters that we missed.
Yeah. Mate, you got a question for us?
Yeah. So with the first 2 games that you saw with the league this season, what do you see is our biggest strength as compared to last season, and what do you think is our biggest area of development?
Tony, I'll start with you, mate.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to go with the weaknesses first, just because obviously we've had 2 losses, so they have what's in my mind, and it's this defensive high line's driving me wild. If you look at the pre-season game against Chelsea, and I know it was only pre-season, but we defended high up in the first half and got torn apart. They were 1-0 up. They missed a penalty. They were having chances all over the place. And then at half-time, we dropped to defending on the edge of the area. And the second half, we were probably the better team. We didn't concede again, and we obviously ended up scoring and winning the game on penalties. So I thought that would have been a lesson learned. But then yesterday, again, straight away, we defend high up. Neither of the centre-backs are quick enough to defend high up, and neither of the full-backs tuck in enough. As much as I don't like Hector, I've got to put the same blame on Nacho on the other side. They're too far apart from their centre-back, so we've literally got no pace at the back, and we've got half of the pitch for the other team to play in. So I think for me, that has to change. I think with these players, you can't play like that. With different centre-backs, maybe it'd be an option, but not with any of the centre-backs we have in our squad. Or they've got to slightly change and the full-backs have got to tuck in. But I can't see that happening because Emery wants to play forward progressive football. The strength, I think, I can only really look at Guendouzi, wanting the ball, trying to dictate play. I said this last week, and I'm going to take his age out of it. You look at yesterday, and you've just got to say he's a good player. What annoyed me about the City game, is everyone was going on about it.
Yeah, I've lost you again, Tony, but I'll just take it up on there, mate, with the Guendouzi that you're talking about. Him, if you actually have a look at the heat map, and Glenn, you'll have a look at it as well, and you have a look at how much running Guendouzi done, and I don't want to single players out compared to Granit Xhaka and Ozil and a couple others, and Guendouzi just seemed to look for the ball more and look for the options a bit more. So I think that is a really big positive moving forward.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'll be honest, that was the first 90-minute performance I saw him play, and I was extremely impressed. I would not have known that he came from second division in French football with the way he's been performing.
Yeah. No, that's all, mate. Anything else for us, mate?
No, that's it, thanks.
No worries, mate. Thanks for joining us, buddy.
Thank you.
Okay.
Anytime.
No worries. Addy, you with us, mate?
Yeah, how you doing?
Yeah, good, mate. Good. You back with us, Tony?
I believe so.
Yep, excellent. What's your question, Addy?
Just before the question, I'd say that I think we played well yesterday, but then I'm still like,
I know what you mean.
not upset, but like obviously when Emery came in, everyone was saying, "Oh yeah, he's tactical. He's going to get us compact and everything." And it's like that hasn't changed yet. And yes, I understand he's trying to implement this high pressing at Arsenal, but then again, it's like at stages we did it well yesterday and we nicked the ball back nice and early, but then again later on it showed that we were tired and then we couldn't keep up for the full 90 minutes. Like for example, at Liverpool, if they're doing it all game, pressurizing all game, and I think we just need to get that consistency. We had good moments in the match. Again, we could have scored. Aubameyang, Mkhitaryan, also had a harder chance than those two. But then again, in the second half, we didn't create as much, which again just like upset me that we just couldn't carry that momentum through to the through to the second half. But on the question now, I think I got, let's say, a two-part question. First one with Mavropanos coming back from suspension because of his red card last season. Do you think he can get into the team? As the first question, and then number two would be, do you think we can? Would you change the formation to get Lacazette and Aubameyang in the team, or do you think we can't get those two as a good strike force because it might leave us vulnerable in another position? Because me personally, I wouldn't want to see Aubameyang push that wide. I would actually go to a 4-3-1-2 and have both of them up top. But obviously, I know your thoughts.
Tony?
Yeah, first of all, nice to hear from you again, Addy. I've had some good questions from you before. On Mavropanos, I don't think he was suspended. I think he only got a game ban, which was Huddersfield, the last game of the last season. Having said that, for me, him and Holding are probably our two best footballing centre backs. At the moment, we seem to not really be focusing on defending and trying to play more football out from the back. So it would suggest that at least one of them two has got to get a chance at some point. They're both also probably quicker than the other two, which would allow to play the high line more, as much as I don't think we should play it with any defenders. So there is a lot of positives for them too. I personally don't think he would do it, but it is something worth looking at. Onto the other side of the question, I pretty much agree with you. I think a 4-3-1-2 would work. I know the negatives of it are we lose a lot of width, or we need width to come from our fullbacks. But if you've got two holders in the three, whoever it be, Guendouzi, Torreira, Xhaka, if two of them are on the pitch, then they can cover the fullbacks when they go forward to provide the width. And let's be honest, at the moment, the only people providing the width for the fullbacks, nothing against Iwobi, I thought he was excellent yesterday, but him playing on the left means he's going to try and cut in. Mkhitaryan playing on the right, he takes up more central positions. So we've got no width from the attacking three anyway, or the three behind the striker anyway. So I personally, I would go with a 4-3-1-2. It also is the only way I can see Ramsey getting into the team. I know this may be a controversial statement that a lot of people might not agree with, but Emery clearly likes to play two holders when he plays 4-2-3-1. So Ramsey's definitely not going to be one of them. So unless he plays at 10, where for me he's not the best and it takes away most of his assets, I think Ramsey has a real issue getting in this team currently. And if he rates Ramsey as much as the rumours tell us he does, then I think a formation change is the only way to get Ramsey in the team.
Do you think he could go because I reckon, and we've discussed it before, Aubameyang, he's probably the best striker we've actually got in the team, ahead of Lacazette at the moment. However, I think Aubameyang may be better coming off the left, Lacazette in the middle, and then would you play Ramsey onto the right as a three at the front?
I mean, for me, that Ramsey experiment on the right has been done many times over the last probably 6 years and failed pretty much every time. Again, you're just taking away all of his assets. Ramsey has what I'd say is a unique skill set in football. There's not many people that has the engine he has the timing of runs he has. I mean, it's like, I'm not comparing him, I'm not saying he's anywhere near as good, but it's like he has the timing of the late runs of someone like Lampard, but then he has the engine of someone who runs a hell of a lot more. I don't know, I'm not going to say Kante because he doesn't run as much as him, but Ramsey has a very unique skill set, and I think putting him on the right wastes pretty much all of them. And I think the same thing about playing him as a 10 wastes all of what he can do. I prefer Aubameyang centrally. But I think under the way Emery's playing, the only way to get him in the team is going to be him left and Lacazette through the middle, which is what I think we'll see against West Ham. I would like to see them both up top at some point.
Yeah. You agree, Addy?
Yeah, I do agree. Again, with the notion of Ramsey out wide, I don't think Ramsey. Yeah, that's been done and tested, and for me, it doesn't work out wide. And again, I think it's the notion. The reason why I'm saying 4-3-1-2 is, again, we actually haven't got a winger, a proper out-and-out winger in the team, which will enable us to actually play with width. If we did have, say, a Malcolm, Leon Bailey, Dembele, then I would understand. I would want to keep that width in the team, but we were at the moment. The first game we had Ozil, Mkhitaryan out wide. No real pace. Not really able to take a player on one-on-one. And both of them always kept coming in centrally. And then even yesterday, again, Mkhitaryan and Iwobi is more of a winger type, but then he's not that winger that gets his head down and takes on a player. So again, I do agree with that. And then also with my first question with Mavropanos, I think we need to just get him in the team. Personally, I think he would definitely change up our style. I think he's like, me personally, I think it would go well with Socrates. I'm surprised that we didn't sign another defender in the transfer window. But I think he's a real gem, similar to Guendouzi. I think that he could flourish, and he showed that against Man United last season. In his debut, I think he would definitely flourish, and you just have to give him games. You have to take that risk with him. I've given up on Mustafi already, to be honest with you.
I think a lot have. Just you're talking about the right winger quickly. Did you catch Everton? Walcott had an absolute blinder.
Yeah.
I looked and I thought, if only, and I don't know whether it had changed much of results that we've had anyway. You know, we're only 2 games under an Emery regime. So, but to see Walcott shine for Everton, you think, if only.
No, so true. So true.
Okay, mate.
Just quickly, I don't know if it's been highlighted in the press or whatnot. Mavropanos was in the stands with the fans yesterday. I don't know if that's been on Twitter or whatnot, but I like it when players do things like that. Like it shows that they're with the fans. So yeah, Mavropanos was in the stands with the fans yesterday. He wasn't in a box or anything.
Oh, good on him. Oh, awesome. Addy, thanks for your call, mate.
No problem. Anytime.
We'll speak to you again, buddy.
Yes.
Justin, you with us, mate?
I'm here. How you going, guys?
Yeah, good, Justin. Good to have you, mate.
And thanks for having me.
No worries. What you thought of the game yesterday, mate?
I'm a bit disappointed with the loss, but it's promising stuff. It's promising stuff so far, but wasn't expecting too much against Chelsea because they had a good start against Huddersfield. 4-0 was it?
3-0, yeah.
3-0, yeah. But Emery's still getting the team together, and I'm not really expecting much. But we played much better than we did against City, for sure.
Yeah. You touched on Chelsea, and it was interesting. I had a conversation with a Chelsea fan today, and it's been, and I know we're an Arsenal podcast, but they had Conte playing type of defensive football, and then they had obviously Mourinho playing defensive football, playing with a manager of Sarri. And we've all talked about Sarri ball and attacking football. I think Chelsea are actually a little bit flying under the radar with the players they've got and the style the manager wants them to play. So it's not all bad, but we were playing against the Chelsea team, and look, half time, and we'll obviously go into this a little bit later, but at half time it was we could have been up 3-4-0. So it's not all doom and gloom.
I think that was the cause of missed opportunities was probably the cause of our defeat. If we would have gone up 4-2 half time, I do. Even though Chelsea dominated us in the second half, I do still think we would have held on.
Yeah. Mate, you got a question for us, buddy?
Yes, I got a couple, if that's okay.
Yeah, shoot, mate.
Well, would you call Aubameyang an undroppable player? Like, I know no player has no given right to start every game, but is it normal to expect him to start every week?
I'll go to Tony and then I'll answer it in a minute.
For me, he has to start in all, I'm going to say first team games. And what I mean by that is, so the Europa League group stages, I know that they are technically first team games, but I wouldn't class them as first team games. And the same as the the Carabao Cup. He has to play when our first string plays. For me, he has to start when we go to second string. And as I said, with the Europa League and the Carabao Cup, that's when you see, I'd imagine, the likes of Danny Welbeck. And you'll probably see none of the 11 or one or two of the 11 that we've been seeing the last couple of games. That is probably when you'll see your Holdings and your Mavropanoses, maybe a bit more of Lichtsteiner, etc. But for me, Aubameyang has to start all, as I said, first string games.
Yeah, I couldn't agree anymore. I think Aubameyang, for me, he's, and I mean, we touched on it last podcast that we talk about superstars and players, and for me, Aubameyang is that player that Arsenal have. Is, any team would want an Aubameyang in your team up front, and we've got him. So you've got to start him every week for me. What else you got, mate?
Going back what I said before, do you think it's more beneficial that we got 2 losses in a row at the start of the season rather than copying them late in the season? Like about 2 seasons ago when we lost to Everton, then Man City, and everything fell apart. Do you reckon? Do you think it's better that we cop these losses first and then go on maybe like a good run?
Yeah, mate. I heard a couple of pundits talking about it on Talk Sport. You know, apparently it's my new favourite radio station now. So, but I heard them talking about something like, and I don't know, Tony, you might be able to elaborate on stats. They were talking about 20 years or 29 years or something. It was the worst start to an Arsenal season. But what they didn't say was we just played Manchester City and Chelsea. So I don't know if we've ever come up against two teams like that for our first two games. Tony?
I mean, off the top of my head, we've not had fixtures that tough for the first two games. I don't know how long the record is. I know under Wenger, we never lost our first two games. That's the stat that's going around. As I said, I don't read anything into that. In terms of is it beneficial? I don't know. I think it puts a huge amount of pressure on the West Ham game. I was speaking to one of my friends who's a Tottenham fan literally just before we started recording, and he's all smug and whatnot because they're going to win everything apparently, and their toilet hole is going to be filled with trophies. But I said I think West Ham's now a must win, and he didn't agree. But for me, I think the pressure's now on because he's got a bit of leeway because it's like, oh, you've lost your first two games, but they're against City at home and Chelsea away. It's forgivable. But now I think the pressure is on massively for West Ham because if you don't beat them, not only do you only have 1 point out of 9, it's like, well, okay, we gave you a bit of a pass for not beating the good teams, but now you can't beat the average teams at home. And then I think real questions will start to be asked. Mm-hmm. I think our fan base could not turn, but the sulking will start again. It has started to an extent, but not much. You maybe see, 5% of fans moaning when I look on Twitter and stuff. But if we don't get a win against West Ham, I think that will increase massively. So it's difficult. I mean, is there a good time to lose and a bad time to lose? I don't know. What I will say is losing these two fixtures is forgivable. It's understandable. It's in a way acceptable. But it just puts huge pressure on your next three games. I mean, we should be winning. Our next three games are West Ham home, Cardiff away, international break, Newcastle away. In reality, I think we have to get 9 points out of that. And then you can say, OK, he has improved things. We are looking decent. And we just lost because we had two very difficult games and we didn't have much time together as a unit. But if we don't get 9 points out of them games, then I think questions will start to be asked.
What about you, Justin? What's your take on that, mate?
I don't really see I'm not. How can I put it? I'm not too much into it because it's just City and Chelsea. We just had two tough fixtures so far.
Yeah.
And and of course TalkSport won't mention that it's Chelsea and City because they've got that agenda against Arsenal.
Exactly. Yeah. No worries, mate. You got anything else for us, buddy?
Just one more.
Yep.
I think it was last month you mentioned in the pre-season pod that Cesc Fabregas was a homegrown player for Arsenal. Does that also mean he's a homegrown player for Chelsea?
Tony,
yes.
That's out of my way. Yes?
Yeah. So a player isn't homegrown for a particular club. They're just homegrown. So if you're in England for 3 years before the age of 21, you're classed as homegrown. It's not club specific. So you could play for Everton from 16 to 19, go to Spain and be there till you're 35. And if you came back to England when you're 35, you're still classed as homegrown. But it's not for a particular club.
Yeah, okay. Interesting. There you go. Well, thanks, Justin. Thanks for calling us, mate.
Thanks for having me on.
No worries, mate. And hopefully you're enjoying the podcast.
Will do. Thanks.
Good on you, buddy. Thanks, mate. One more to get through. Madhav?
Yeah, hi Tony.
Yeah,
can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you, mate. Loud and clear. How are you, buddy?
Yeah, I'm good. Not really. A weekend has been spoiled already, but I'm hoping that Man United will lose and I'll be happy again. Let's see.
What's your question, mate?
Yeah. Before I have a couple of things to say. One thing is, I think we have to realize, we have to be honest that we cannot expect Emery to start having a magic again the same level what we had when Wenger left, we are at the same level. So it will take some time, and I think we all needs to be little bit patient about it. Second thing is, I'm little worried about when Aubameyang and Mkhitaryan, kind of miss those chances. So every time the defense is always a soft target, everyone can jump on them. But I think they have to now step up and make sure those such chances are not missed. Because attackers also has to take the responsibilities. I know we conceded 3 goals, but still we could have scored at least 2 more, definitely.
Yeah, no, I agree. And sometimes we do at work as well. We just have a bad day at the office. And Aubameyang just had a bad day at the office. He'd be absolutely kicking himself that he missed that chance. Mkhitaryan, he would be as well. And it's one of them things. I'm not going to criticise him for the rest of the season and say, oh, Aubameyang, we wasted their money. And I've seen lots of fans say it, oh, he should have scored this, and he should have. And it cost us, well, we wouldn't say it cost us the game, but he would have put us up in front, and we could have held on and whatnot. But I just put it down to he's had a bad day at the office, unfortunately.
Yeah. So I have a couple of questions. One is, I've been just thinking that whether playing 3 at the back will help us to shore a few things. I know it will make little bit more defensive, but at least it will give a cover whenever, especially on the counter. I was really worried when player like Morata, again, no disrespect to him, but he literally played outside, played on. I think he took Mustafi on the left and scored. So that's what worried me, that even Morata is able to score against us. And so if we can play 3 at the back, 3-5-2 or 3-4-3, will it make us to have some defensive things strengthen up? That was my first question. And second question is, again, is there any player, again, I'm just thinking aloud, maybe I'm in a panic situation, but is there any player who is right now free, who can come and help our team in some sense, whether it's a defense, whether it's a midfield, whether it's a winger? Is there anyone who is available right now? So
I'm hearing you. Before I do go to Tony, and Tony, you might remember his name, he was with Juve. He just become free, and a few Arsenal fans were saying on Twitter he might be a solution to come and fix Arsenal, but I just try and think who that was now.
I saw Charlie Shanks tweet it, and I can't remember who it was.
I can't remember who it was anyway, but he was with him for, I should know his name.
Was it Marquisio?
Yeah,
that's him. Yeah, so that was one that I did see go to. It was on a free transfer, and people were saying maybe. What was your other with the 3 at the back? Well, I think I think Emery's always going to play a 4 at the back. I think that's just, I could be wrong. I don't think you'll ever go to a 3 at the back. Anyway, I'll go to you, Tony. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, as you just said, I can't see Emery ever playing a back 3. I think at times it works, and it would help you build out from the back. Because you've got more numbers in. But for me, what's wrong with the defence at the moment isn't the number of people there. I think with how high, you mentioned Morata's goal, so I'll go on that instance. We could have had a back 10. If we defend on the halfway line like that, we're going to be in trouble. Morata, he's not a brilliant player and he's not a brilliant finisher, but he is quick. He's got a lot of assets, and one of them is speed. He's not stupid quick. He's not Theo Walcott quick, but he's quick enough. He's going to be quicker than most centre-backs. So if you defend on the halfway line, and you remember as well, he's got a run on them because he's coming from a running start while they've got a turn. I don't think it matters how many you play at the back. And then Mustafi's body shape's all wrong. You've got to show him wide, and he showed him inside. He showed him too much. And then it goes through his legs, which is a bit unlucky. But for me, I think as much as there is positives to a back 3, and I feel we played in our last 2 years probably our best football with a back 3, I don't think that rectifies the mistakes we're making at the moment, which are fundamental mistakes. And I can't see Emery ever doing it. On the free transfer question, I can't think of everyone. Obviously, we just mentioned Marquisio. I can't think of anyone else. I know Palace obviously swooped to pick up Max Meyer on deadline day, and Everton the same with Bernard. I think off the top of my head, there probably is some people, but off the top of my head, most of the people that are available were taken within the back end of the English window. But I may be wrong on that.
Yeah, sorry, I was just trying to have a look at some who else would be available. Yeah. Anyway, you've top of got us off guard.
Yeah, Tony. One thing, Tony. What I mean by three at the black is not necessarily that whole game at three at the black, but especially when a team like Chelsea will flood the midfield. Like, and you can see there are so many bodies in the midfield for Chelsea. To mitigate that, there has to be some plan, which probably can, maybe we can. I know it will nullify both the teams, and maybe we'll have a very bore one draw. But at least this 1 point is important. And do you really think that after 2-2 we should have changed some tactics, be more like happier to be just 1 point, or was it not? I mean, that's not what you saw in the ground. What was your take on that?
When teams flood the midfield, three at the back is counterproductive because it just means you get even more overrun in midfield because you've got to take that body out of somewhere. So it either means that you can match them in midfield, but you can't get anywhere with the ball, and then you end up giving it back to them straight away, which is pretty much what we saw yesterday, or you just get completely overrun in midfield because they've got an extra body there. Because when you're defending, a back three becomes a back five when teams have got you under the cosh, so to speak. So then if you've got five there, you're going to have one up top. So, and obviously including keeper, that's 7 of your players out the game. So even if the other 3 are all in midfield, they're likely to have more players in and around. So I don't really see that point. In terms of this is a very controversial statement. In terms of yesterday, Xhaka is the most annoying player on earth, and he deserved to be subbed off yesterday because he wasn't very good. But our attacking play is so much worse without him in the team, and we don't get the ball forward as quickly, as accurately. We don't switch play as well. It helped yesterday having Guendouzi alongside him because it was 2 players that could do it. And in the second half, all the responsibility fell on Guendouzi, and it just didn't work. That's nothing against him. I don't think we even intentionally intended to just go sort of super defensive and try and get a draw. I think we just sort of fell into that trap. Another thing that didn't help is early on in the second half, we got a bit of joy with basically just going long to Aubameyang, running channels or running angles. And we got a bit of joy, and it was like we tried to figure out, that works. If we defend deep and just hit it long, then Aubameyang's going to get in at some point. And we just kept trying to do it, and in reality, it was never going to work. Them things they can work as a shock once in a game, maybe twice, but when that's your only tactic, which it pretty much was for, I'd say, a good half hour of the second half, you're always going to struggle because the other team just gets the ball back so quick. You go long, and he either gets it or has no support, gets it and gets in one-on-one, which is obviously the ideal, or the ball goes out for a throw and they get it back. The ball is too heavy, it goes to the keeper, they get it back. Their centre-back cuts out the long ball to Aubameyang, they get it back, and they're straight back on the attack again. So I think, in a way, our early success in the second half probably caused us more problems than it did good. I know that sounds stupid to say, but it just made us think, that tactic works, when long-term that tactic was never going to work.
Okay, listen, I've just had a little look at the free... While Tony was talking there's 5 pages available. So I'm going to put it back to our listeners and our followers. And look, I don't think it won't happen, because if you're 2 games into your season and you're looking at a free player from the free transfer list to help you, then you're pretty much underprepared anyway at the start. But look, just for argument's sake, have a look at who's available for free. Hit us up at @clockend_talk. And let us know if you see a player there free and you think he would improve Arsenal's attacking. I just had a quick look through, and I didn't really note anybody there. But
unless he's gone somewhere and I've missed it, I may be wrong, but people will say Yaya Toure, but he just doesn't fit what we're trying to do. As I said, I don't think he's signed for anyone, but I could be wrong. But he doesn't fit us. But there will be some good players there. It's just... as you said, I can't see it happening.
Yeah,
I can't see it happening. You prepare with the squad you've got.
Bakary Sania available?
Oh, mate, there's a heap there. Like I said, I just had a quick skim through and had a look. I was basically looking for right wingers. Was what I was looking at. But look, I don't think it would happen anyway. Like I said, if you're looking at 2 games, okay, we've lost 2 games, but let's say we win the next 3 games, and then are we going on? Do we still need that right winger as much as we? Or could we hold out till January? Do we need a right winger from a free who, I don't know, they're free for a reason, they're not setting the world on fire. So anyway, that's my thought, mate. Thank you for your call, buddy.
Yeah, it is always nice listening to you guys. Thanks for this.
Oh, excellent, mate, and much appreciate you listening too, mate. Good on you, buddy. Okay, you two can follow us at clockend_talk, and each and every week we try and get a few live listeners and get your perspectives on the game, and if you've got questions for us, we're more than happy to answer them and have a chin wag and get things off your chest. Thank you. Okay, boys. Thanks, lads.
Gents, hold on. Sorry.
Yeah.
So just before we go, just one more question.
Yeah.
How long would you give Emery?
Oh, good question. Who's that, Addy?
Yeah.
Jeez, man. Oh, look, for me, I'm gonna be pretty confident. I'm gonna say at least 2 years. And Tony?
Look, I think a season, and then we have to look at the style. I think if it's working, I'll be honest. At 2-0 down yesterday, I was standing in Stamford Bridge thinking he's going to struggle, because I don't think we have the players to play the way he wants to, and with our fan base the way it is, and let's be honest, it's not the best. Will they give him a year where we could even not come in the top 6, and we see this style that looks horrible? I mean, a bit like, say, Guardiola's first year, it looked horrible and it wasn't working at all. I know they got in the top 4, but it looked horrible, and City fans still weren't really on his back. There was never any call for his head or anything. If we're like that and this style doesn't work, which I really can't see this playing out, I hope I'm wrong, but I just think none of our players are really suited to playing out from the back. If we're struggling, say in January, and we're 7th and we've gone out of the FA Cup, will our fan base mount too much pressure, and will there be too many noises? Will they stop giving him a chance? I think they probably will. I personally would like to see the year out, give him next summer, and because that's what happened with Guardiola. He realised that he couldn't play out from the back with Sanya and Clichy and Demichelis and
couldn't do it.
Whoever else. And I know he spent crazy amounts of money, but he got his own players in, and then suddenly they're playing out for the back. They walk the league. I think we need to give Emery that. We need to give him this season, see if he can implement what he can with these players, which I don't think will happen, and then give him, say, here you go, here's, and I know it sounds horrible, here's your last chance. You've got your players now, and then see what we're doing 6 months into next season. But I wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't get that long, because I think there could be some disasters with this trying to play out the back.
Yeah, well, when I say 2 years, I mean this season, next summer window, and then I look at it going into next season, and then come January, I think if we're sitting in 7th, 8th, 9th next January, some questions will probably have to be asked. But I really think he needs at least 2 windows, not 2 years. You touched on Pep though, Tony, and my only argument on that, I'm surprised you found a City fan.
I don't find a City fan. Oh, to not. Well, no, I mean, you just didn't hear about it. No, them empty chairs don't complain and don't want people sacked. That's what it was. But as I said, you know what I mean? He came in and it wasn't his players, and then he changed the type of player that they had. And the only issue with that with Arsenal is that Emery doesn't make the signings. So it's going to be a tough one, because these players, look, for me, and people can question me on this, Mustafi's never really going to be adept at playing out from the back. Hector can't. Nacho probably can, but he's only got another year in him, I think. Socrates, he's playing on the wrong side, which makes playing out from the back horrible. But we've got no one. We've got no left-footed centre-back. So whoever plays there is going to struggle. For me, I just don't think this group of players can do it. And Cech, I said this last week, for me, Cech is the better goalkeeper out of the two. But he's never, ever, ever going to be comfortable playing out from the back. Not that he made any mistakes yesterday, but he's never going to be comfortable doing that.
He
So
was better
I just think,
yesterday than the first game.
oh yeah, he was much better. As I said, he didn't do anything wrong yesterday.
Yeah.
But for me, of the 5 players that you're trying to play out from the back with, Nacho's the only one I believe that can really do it.
I hadn't seen much of Socrates, but is he like dead slow or something? Does he get any faster? Or he is a slow player?
He's not. I wouldn't say he's really like he's not Mertesacker slow, but he's also not quick.
Yeah.
I would say maybe on par a little bit slower than Mustafi, which isn't crazy slow. I think it's just being exposed because they're defending 50 yards out, and barring maybe 5 defenders in world football, any defence that defends 50 yards out. Look, for me, John Terry's been the best English centre-back in the last 15 years. You put him on the halfway line, he'd have been awful. Even going on, say, this England World Cup, everyone's going on about Maguire and Stones, and they both had excellent World Cups. Put them on the halfway line and see what happens. It wouldn't end well.
Yeah.
It's just, for me, I think the age of defending that high up is gone. No one does it, and there's a reason for it, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Addy, how long you give him?
To be honest with you, I'll give him to the end of the season. Like,
I'm brutal, mate, brutal.
Yeah, I'm one that was calling for Sarri before when we were choosing our manager. I wanted Sarri just solely based on what he did at Napoli last year. Even to be fair, the year before, like I wasn't really a fan of Emery. Yes, he won trophies at PSG, but put any manager there, they would win. Laurent Blanc won at PSG much more easier than Emery did. And Seville, yes, he did win the Europa League, but again, I'm not looking for a manager that's won the Europa. I wanted a world-class manager from the get-go.
But what we've got to think about, Addy, is Arsenal. The way Arsenal are moving forward, you get let's say a Jose Mourinho, right? And I'll use him because he wants to get what he wants to get. Emery doesn't want to get what he wants to get because he doesn't pick the players, he doesn't buy the players. You're not going to get a world-class manager to come in and look, you might get the odd one or two. I'm just trying to think off the top of my head. But you wouldn't get a Jose Mourinho to come into Arsenal and say, here's your players, now you coach them. He would want to come in and spend $100-200 million to try and fix it his way. And that's why Emery suited our mould.
True, but then how many managers have gone to Real Madrid, even though they signed elite players, but so many managers have gone into Real Madrid and have had to face that of, okay, I've got a group of players, they may not be my players, but, and again, obviously, this is on a different scale because Real Madrid will have elite players, so you can do the most with. Look,
put it to Chelsea, they've had, how many managers over so many years, and they've all walked into different squads of different players, but eventually, Sarri, he'll probably get a bit of money next year, and he'll be able to. He just spent $72 million or something on a goalkeeper, so he'll get the players he wants, and he'll buy a few more in January. He'll buy a few more in next summer if he needs to, and he'll get the players that he wants. Emery won't, and that's what I think the difference is.
But then remember he was classed as a manager that improves any player. So
yep. Exactly.
Again, I think that I honestly would give him a C. I do see progression because I think last year with Arsene Wenger, we were renowned for playing good football, passing out the back. Barcelona B, but then I would say under Arsene last 2 years we struggled to actually play out the back. It was. Like I was confused, like seeing us play the football we played last season, especially. It wasn't Arsenal like from what, and maybe it's because of the players we had, but I can see that progression of even our second goal yesterday. I saw the build up play for that goal, and it was amazing how we used the ball. We passed it sideways, we passed it backwards, but we were always moving up the pitch, and I see that progression. But it's now. How do we? I think attacking-wise, we don't have a problem. I think our problem is defensively, and not saying that. So yeah, Chelsea yesterday, they were open. We created so many chances, and I think that with Emery, everyone was like, "Yep, he's tactical now." It's like watching videos and everything. How long is he going to take to actually sort out our defence and make us compact? Because I think once we get that and us playing our attractive attacking football, I think that's when we can be a force to reckon with. But as long as it's only attacking on, focusing on our attacking play and not the defensive play, I think that's where that's where it all it's gonna fall down for me. Like,
yeah,
how long
threw me yesterday? Like, why defenders are walking up to the halfway line I was baffled to start with, and they're not the fastest defenders. So, and as Tony said, you have a Stones, whoever do the same thing, and they would struggle to get back. I don't understand whether that was the players just so used to walking up to the halfway line. It was almost like the old Arsenal. I don't know whether it might take him a little bit to get him out of that. But I see him on the sideline, Tony, doing lots of waving his hands and whatnot. So I don't know what he was saying.
Yeah, I think, look, Wenger's gone and whatnot, but he's getting a lot of criticism that's undeserved. We never defended on the halfway line with him, and we also had Koscielny, who was a lot quicker. So people at the moment, anytime anything goes wrong, they go, "Oh, it's left over from Wenger." But I'm not trying to criticise Emery, but this is a tactic he's chosen. It's not the players are used to walking up to the halfway line. That's nonsense. And if that was the case, why would Socrates not be 30 yards deeper than everyone else? Because he wouldn't be used to what Wenger done.
Yeah,
it's
true. Yeah, okay.
For me, it's a tactic he's chosen, and be it right or wrong, I personally think it's wrong. He obviously thinks it's right. So yeah, I mean, that for me, it's an excuse for absolutely everything at the moment. Every time anything goes wrong, like someone missed a chance. When someone missed a chance yesterday, it's because they're not used to shooting under Wenger. Like, look, if Aubameyang misses an open goal from 7 yards, the person to blame is Aubameyang. It's not Emery's fault. It's not Wenger's fault. It's Aubameyang's. And I'm not trying to hammer Aubameyang. I'm just saying sometimes you can't blame Wenger for absolutely everything. I wanted to ask a question back at Addy, to be fair. So you're saying you'd give Emery till the end of the season, which is fair enough. As I said, I stood in Stamford Bridge yesterday thinking exactly the same. What does he need to do, in your opinion, to keep his job? So at the end of the season, what's the minimum that he has to be to still be Arsenal manager next year for you? And it might not be a league position, it might be a style. I'm just interested.
So I remember when you asked me this exact same question just before the season started, and for me, top 4 is a minimum. I think for us to challenge in the future, we have to get Champions League football. That's a must. Whether he does that through the Europa League, again, it's a second-rate competition. And I don't want to say that when United won it, I was still slating them. Like, cool, fair enough. Yeah, they got into the Champions League, but like, I was still slating United for actually celebrating that competition. I don't want to. Me reading through it, I would say don't even focus on that. Focus on the Premier League and trying to get, because that's our bread and butter. That's what we're playing in every single week. And for me, minimum top 4. Cool if by default we win the Europa League, but then we finish 6th or 7th. Honestly, I'll get rid of him and get a manager that will take us forward in the Champions League, and pushing to challenge. Again, I don't think we're strong enough to challenge, so I have to be realistic. Obviously, at the start of the season, it's definitely this challenge, and that was before we actually got to the end of the transfer window. But again, I don't think we recruited the players to challenge. We have to finish minimum for me top 4. If we win the Europa League, I would again get rid of him and get a manager that will push us forward, because as I said, the Premier League that's what we're going to get measured by. Europa League, we might get an easy path to the final. Again, last year it was unlucky that Atletico dropped into the Europa League, and we all know they're a quality team. They're a Champions League team. Yeah. So we could have walked to the final last season. But this season, I honestly, not to forget, because obviously I want to challenge for every competition we're in, but my main focus is that Premier League, and that's what we should get measured on.
Okay.
What we're doing in the League.
Well, Addy, we're going to speak to you throughout the season, no doubt, mate. So we'll see how we go, eh?
Definitely.
Righto, mate. Thanks for the call, buddy.
There's no, thank you.
Cheers, mate. What do you want to do, mate? You want to get into some questions? Because we've got a shitload there, mate.
Yeah, let's go.
So, Vish. 2 games into the season, I'm already fearing the worst. See what I mean? Patience, Vish. Patience. Clearly, our superstar players are in... and he's had a capital superstar. Players are incapable of adapting to Emery's system. We played with 9 men for the better part of 60 minutes before Xhaka and Ozil were subbed. Would you sell them in December to rebuild your team, Tony?
No. And look, Xhaka was poor. Saying he went missing is, I'd imagine he probably had, maybe not the most touches because we kept giving the ball to a centre-back, but I'd imagine he had a lot of touches in the first half. So to say he went missing is just ridiculous. And I didn't say this now because I know there's going to be loads of questions on it, so I didn't say it before, but Ozil wasn't in the game yesterday. He wasn't awful. There's a difference. And had he came deep and went and got the ball off our centre-backs and had 100% pass completion, but not done anything with it, just giving it to our centre midfielders and blah, 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 then people would say he doesn't impact the game. So he's tried to stay higher where he has more impact on the game, and he's been starved of the ball. I think these going missing quotes, and I'm so glad this question's come up because I've not read them, but this question has pretty much proved my point, because people just, as soon as someone don't play well, they just go, he's gone missing. But there's more. You have to look deeper into things than just, he's gone missing. Because, as I said, to say Xhaka's gone missing is ridiculous. If he said Xhaka was shit, I would agree with him. But to say, on that performance, but to say he went missing is a joke. And as I said with Ozil, he can't win. Last week against City, people said he went missing, but he came deep and got the ball loads of times, but he didn't have an impact. There's a difference. That's what I'm saying. What do you want him to do? Do you want him to be involved in the game or have an impact? So I'm not saying he played well, but he's tried to do what everyone has been moaning about, and he still gets the exact same criticism. I don't really get it. As I said, fair play, say he didn't play well, because he didn't.
Well, I'll continue on, because he has said, like, yes, my response is reactionary, but I don't see Bellerin, Xhaka or Ozil being any better during the season. I defend Ozil when Tez questioned whether he is a superstar or flop, and and now I'm waking up to the fact that he was right. Hopefully he can see the same for Xhaka. Okay.
As I said, it's what do you want from Ozil? Do you want him to impact the game high up the pitch? If that's yes, then you've got to stop moaning at him for going missing, and we've got to get him the ball more. His amount of touches is directly reflective of how good the team is behind him. Or do you want him to have more impact, more touches, so you can't moan he's gone missing? In which case, when he comes deep and has loads of touches, like he did against City, but doesn't create anything, you can't moan, because that's what you've asked for. People seem to want him to do both, and that's never going to happen. And if that's going to be your standards for him, then give up with him.
Well, just explain to the listeners, what's your standards for him?
Look, I want him to have impact. I get annoyed that he comes too short. I know, look, it comes down to a quote I used a million times last season of wanting to fill the ball. He gets frustrated and doesn't get on the ball, and he comes deep and he gets the ball off one centre-back and plays the ball to another centre-back. And for me, it's a waste of his talent. I would prefer him as someone who barely gets on the ball, but has an impact every time he does. But I think he's probably been shaped by criticism of the media. And I know people say it should never get to players, but it does. And where people say, he goes missing, so now he comes and has a loads of touches. When for me, that's not what he should be doing. And look, this is my opinion. He could completely disagree with me. But for me, I want him having an impact when he has the ball, rather than someone who has the ball a lot, but just keeps the game ticking along.
Mm-hmm.
We've got an Ozil to provide, right? So if he's 60 yards out getting loads of touches of ball, the chances are he's not going to provide from there. If he's on the edge of the area only having 20 touches, but all 20 of them touches are on the edge of the area, he's got a fair chance of providing from them positions. And I mean, look, the comparison's going to come up a lot with like David Silva or Kevin De Bruyne, but they do come deep. but they also have 50 touches a game on the edge of the opposition's area. So yes, they get loads of touches deep, but just because of how good City are, they have these chances to create more. Whereas I don't think we get Ozil the ball anywhere near enough to produce them numbers. And again, I'm not defending him yesterday because he wasn't good. I just think the criticisms of him are, he does one of two things, and whatever one he does, he gets criticised for not doing the other one. How many times have we heard people say he's not worked hard? Last week against City, he worked his bollocks off, and there was another reason to criticise him. I just feel like, as I said, you've got to establish what you want from Ozil, and then criticise him if he doesn't do it. But don't expect him to do everything, because he's not going to do that. No one's going to do that. That's not an Ozil problem. That's a human problem. No one can do everything.
Schwinn, you got any thoughts on this, mate?
No, I have nothing to say. I mean, I've made my opinions on him very clear. He, as Tony said very, very well, he wasn't involved a whole lot. You know, there's a variety of reasons for that. And Xhaka into this conversation as well. You know, it just tells you that, you know, and Vish confessed to this, it doesn't come from a very objective standpoint. It comes from a very emotional and reactionary standpoint. So I had nothing to add to what Tony very well eloquently mentioned just now.
Okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, says Clay, how likely were we to not be up 2 goals at the half? It was very frustrating game to watch, with all those golden chances botched with Czech in such sterling shot-stopping form. Do you foresee Leno starting? Fuck me, that was a fucking mouthful to spit that out. Schwinn, sorry, mate.
He was very, very unlucky, but it was also at the same time a consequence of not showing our quality. You know, 12 yards out, and you sky it into Rosette. Not once, not twice, but 4 times. Granted, one of the ones that Aubameyang had was on his left, and you know, he was even closer to goal, so it didn't go over the crossbar, but it was still not on target. It was a very, very poor game in terms of our finishing and quality in the final third. Just quickly here, as I briefly mentioned on here, that those spots, those positions were vacated by Mesut Ozil so that his teammates could come in and run onto the ball there. Those are things we, you know, might not notice a whole lot of times. But he dragged his defender out of position for those. You won't find a lot of people talking about that, by the way.
Okay. I'm sidestepping everything here tonight. Clay also says, Tony, late question with Ozil. Being in poor form, would you like seeing a 4-4-2 with Laka and Aubameyang starting up top together, or a 4-4-1-1 with Laka playing just behind Aubameyang? Midfield 4 of Iwobi on the left, Torreira, Guendouzi, Rambo, Mickey on the right. Would be interesting to watch.
I would go nowhere near a 4-man midfield. I think it takes away pretty much everything, because one of them's going to sit. So then one of them's either going to have to push on, and if you're looking at Xhaka, Ramsey or Guendouzi, none of them are going to be as a 10. And if they all sit, then we've just got no attacking instinct. We've got no width because our wingers would be cutting in. I just don't think it would add anything. I think people were maybe looking for change for change's sake. One thing I just didn't mention when we was talking about Ozil is, who's the best defensive midfielder in the league for you two?
Sorry, Schwinn?
I'd probably go for Matic. Oh, no, N'Golo Kante. But, of course, he's not playing defensive midfield anymore.
That's the answer I wanted. So,
yeah.
So Ozil was that ineffective. How much of a defensive midfield job did Kante do yesterday? And I would argue next to nothing. And that's because he's so worried about what Ozil's doing, it allows space for everyone else. So I think even without, and again, I'm not trying to say Ozil had a good game, and I'm not particularly defending him. But if our player takes their best player, or one of Hazard wasn't on the pitch, so if our player takes their best player out of the game, for me, I couldn't care less if he doesn't touch the ball. Them spaces on the edge of the box, as Schwinn said, and this is what made me think about it, are so where Iwobi and Mickey both scored from, where they missed all them chances from, that is where Kante would be and should be, but he's worried about something else. Whether you say that person's gone missing or not, he has dragged their best player out from where he's meant to be.
Yeah, okay.
Or what? Okay, look, I know you don't agree with me, Tez. Why wasn't Kante there? Tell me why the best midfielder, defensive midfielder, arguably in the world, top 3 in the world. No one can argue with that.
So you're saying Kante kept? So you're saying Kante took out Özil and stopped him doing what he did?
The other way.
Or the other way round. Özil took Kante out of his position. Why wasn't Kante on the edge of the box blocking all them shots like he usually is? Why wasn't he there?
You have a good point.
That's what I'm saying. So I couldn't care less if Özil didn't touch the ball. If he takes Kante out of the game, that's a positive for us, surely.
Yeah, okay. It is hard to argue with that.
Was Kante not there because he couldn't be bothered, and he didn't even know where Özil was? Kante couldn't be bothered to defend yesterday because we can't give our players credit for anything. So actually, what it was is Kante couldn't be bothered. He didn't try yesterday. He wanted a day off.
He knew Mesut Ozil was going to go missing. It's a big game, so he knew Mesut Ozil was going to go missing, Tony. I think that's the answer, too.
Yeah, so what happened is Kante decided to not play as well. He thought, let's make it fair, we'll go 10v10. I won't do my job of defending on the edge of the box where I'm the best in the world because their player's not really going to try, so I won't either.
Yeah. Again, I must underline here that no one is defending how missing Mesut Ozil went, because he did. There's no question. 29 touches in 60 minutes. And he is someone that you would expect, depending on how you want us to play, to get on the ball more. Even I do, right? But when you're not getting involved in the game because of being pressed or because of having a lot of bodies on you, you can still affect the game. I've said this before on this podcast. On an average, a footballer has the ball for 2 minutes out of 90 minutes of a regular game. So what you do for the rest of the 88 minutes matters much more, arguably. And as spectators, especially watching on the telly, you are restricted to or forced to watch what's happening on the ball. A lot of football happens off of it. So we're not defending the performance Mesut Ozil had, but at least give him credit where it's due. That's all we're saying.
Yeah, I always say this, and it's not me being a snob saying I go to games and people don't. But why I think I often form very different opinions to most people is because I say this quote all the time. I can see the whole pitch. You can see what your TV director wants you to see. So when I say something, it's because I've seen what's happening off the ball. And it just kind of backs up what Schwinn said. And again, it's not me saying I know more or I'm better because I'm actually in the ground. All I'm saying is at any given time, I can see more of the pitch. Where if I was on a call with someone while a game was going on, I could tell them where every single player was, where they could tell me where 3 players around the ball are, probably, because that's what the TV director wants to show you.
Yeah,
I would urge our listeners, just quickly, Taz, I would urge our listeners that if you guys have access to a tactical cam, where you can watch, on an iPad or a laptop, just keep it next to your TV, and you can find it online if you don't have access through your service provider. But just have it on so that you can see positionings, you can see when the ball goes out, who's moving around, who's showing themselves. It offers you a lot of extra insight. We're not arguing that your insight is wrong or because we're saying it this way, it's that way. But it just gives you an additional perspective. It's an additional set of eyes. And it does help you see other things. And then you can decide for yourself, which one you want to agree with. It's that simple.
Yep, right. Okay. Anybody? I'll be fucking honest, lads. It sounds like we're trying to make excuses. And
no, okay.
That's what it sounds like we are, boys. It sounds like we're making any fucking excuses.
Okay, why was Kante not in his position?
For Ozil. Now, I just had a quick look at some heat maps as well while you're talking about that, because I thought, yeah, okay, you make a good point there. But have a look at Ozil's heat map and have a look at Kante's heat map.
No, I'm not comparing the 2 players. Kante's obviously going to cover much more ground. That's not the issue. What I'm saying is, why wasn't Kante on the edge of the box where he always is when we cut the ball back at least 5 times? Why wasn't he there?
Oh, well, obviously, Ozil made him out of position.
There you go. That's all I'm saying. I'm not making excuses. I'm telling you what happened.
No, I get that. But what I'm getting at is we've spent 15 minutes talking about Ozil, and all I've heard is watch tactical cams. Kante did this, but Ozil did have a poor game, and he 29 touches. The simple fact is, Do we want a player? Look, something's going on there, boys. Something's not right, and I want him to succeed like everybody else. But something's got to change. Whether it's Emery's tactics, whether it's a team's tactics, it's always an excuse of Ozil. He hasn't got the players around him to succeed. He hasn't got this. He hasn't got that. It's about what is it then? Tell me what it is. I
think you brought up.
Play.
I think you brought up a much more important point there, Tez, and that's about how we were set up. You know, one of the reasons we sort of decided or agreed upon that having a 3-man midfield would help us against Chelsea was to match them, right? And then you have the likes of someone like an Mesut Ozil who can get on the ball more. Granit Xhaka and Guendouzi were not given any passing lanes to find Mesut Ozil, and that's one of the reasons he had fewer touches. And as Tony said, if he was dropping deeper, he wouldn't be able to impact the game the way he would like to. So it is a bit more systematic. I think a lot of fans are a bit scared to go down that direction because it's a new era, it's a new manager, and we don't want to necessarily question the system yet because we know that takes time. How can you doubt the quality of a player who's achieved so much in his career but is unable to, under new leadership within 2 games and arguably against, you know, the best sides in the country, the 2 of the best sides in the country.
Mate, with all due respect to you, Schwinn, and I know he's your favourite player, but I don't think he had a great World Cup either.
No, he did, but did Germany?
That's what I'm getting at. Germany didn't have a good World Cup. He did get a lot of flack for it, which I don't think he was totally at fault. But I don't know what it is, mate. It's something, I don't know whether it's him as a player and he's just not focused or... You know, and he come out of the World Cup with this racist rubbish and whatnot. So is he as a player not focused as well? Like, we seem to be tiptoeing around everything possible to make excuses for why he's not performing, but there's no, you know, what is the answer?
No, look, I'm not defending him at all because the only loyalty I have here, just like the 2 of you, is to the club, not to Mesut Ozil. I do have a soft spot for him. I'll give you that for sure. But I just mentioned 5 minutes ago that we're not defending his performance, right? He was not nearly as involved as he should have been. I think me and Tony made that very clear. So we're not defending him tooth and nail. All we're saying is that there were certain moments in the game that should have led us to scoring or converting. That should be credited to him. If you're giving him shit or any other player shit for not meeting certain standards, you should also give them credit in certain cases. That's all we're saying. We're not defending him.
Absolutely.
We're not defending him.
The point I'm trying to get across is loads of people are saying and dropping him, and on his performance, there's a very fair case to argue there. What I'm trying to point out with all this Kante stuff is sometimes the thought of Mesut Ozil, as in the thought of playing against him, is better than at the level of any other player we could play in that position. Because look, he was shit yesterday. I've said that a million times. But because it was Mesut Ozil, Kante was worried about him and left space at the edge of the box. So the thought of that being Mesut Ozil there, if that was, no disrespect to him, I thought he was our best player yesterday. But if that was Alex Iwobi, Kante's on the edge of the box. Because he's not worried about what Kante's doing, what Iwobi's doing over wherever he's standing. So this is what I'm trying to get out. I'm trying to get at the point that if you're considering dropping him, you've got to realise the fear he puts into the other team. Maybe fans don't see it, but you know when we're playing Liverpool and you see Salah not on the team sheet,
yep.
we get lifted. Like yesterday when we're in the ground and the teams are announced and Hazard's not in the team, everyone gets a bit more excited, all the Arsenal fans.
Yeah.
Other teams' fans don't do that with Ozil. But I can guarantee you 1,000,000% the players are very happy when they see Ozil is not on the pitch.
Okay. Well, look, good points, but at the end of the day, we want these players performing, and whatever it is to get him to perform, we need it to happen. I don't know. Look, and you can't say, look, I'm happy to go all season, and I want him to succeed the whole season. Where's the 19 assists, this and that? Whatever it is, whether it's the setup, the players around him, this guy's just signed a new contract, so he is our future, and obviously we're going to be building our team around him, so let's build it around him.
No, and to be fair, Tez, I mean that's a very good point, because I do feel that he is droppable, and that's something that you usually won't hear from people who are fans of a certain player, right? I think that's a very good point. If you're playing a Chelsea where you're going to be harassed and you might not get a lot of ball possession, go 4-3-3, take him out and put a Welbeck on the wing. Bring a bit more width into your team, some running power. I agree with that 100%. Against West Ham, which is our next game, maybe not, because maybe we'll have more lion's share of the possession and West Ham is going to sit deeper. So you need someone to be able to find that killer pass. And that's something that I think needs to be considered. And I think the positive is that it will be considered against some of the bigger teams. If you go to Old Trafford, if you go to Anfield, I can see Mesut Ozil being dropped, and that's a good thing. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing.
No, and I said the same about to you boys. About Granit Xhaka. I think at the end of the day, he's had two very bad performances against some real quality oppositions, but it's no excuse. And maybe he got taken off at half time, and maybe gets dropped next week, and hey, it gives him something to think about. He's got someone playing for his position.
Yeah, you got a role in the team, and maybe not every weekend that role is required. It's that simple. I was watching the City game just now, and Kyle Walker and Leroy Sané didn't make the lineup. And before the game, they were all smiles and happy because they know that there's a role for them in the team. Despite so much competition in that squad, they understand why they're being subbed off or not starting a game. So that atmosphere will be created, I think, with time. And these subs that are being made at halftime or at the 60th minute that we've not seen before, I think are the first step in that direction. So kudos to Emery for that.
I haven't seen the City game. Did Mahrez, though?
No, he didn't. He did come on at the very end, though, for 5 minutes, I think.
Yeah, okay. Tony, let's go. MAA Gunner, we have a lot of winnable games in a row. If we win them all, do you fancy our chances against Liverpool?
Look, we're looking at Liverpool on paper, and everyone's speculating that they're going to be the team that challenges City. I've seen some people make them favourite for the league. I want to know more about Liverpool before I answer that. And it's not me trying to get out of answering the question. If we go into it full of confidence, we're a match for anyone. We know that. But we don't know how good this Liverpool team is. It could be their players aren't gelling together. It could be that they've won every game between now and then, and they're sitting 6 points clear at the top of the table or whatever. We don't know. So it's hard to answer a question that's literally, 2.5 months away?
Yeah, it is. MAA Gunner goes on to say, Schwinn, make the best possible starting 11 of players that have left the club in the past 5 years. Retired players can be used as well.
Well, let's make this a round table and try and think of names together. I'll get the ball rolling. Szczesny.
Sanya's the only right back that's got. Debuchy. I don't know who's. Debuchy's probably ahead of Sanya at the moment. Gibbo, I guess, at left back, being the only one that's gone.
That's right.
Centre back.
Does Diaby count in midfield? Can we throw him in?
Well, I guess so, but it depends if you're looking at peak Diaby, which happened for about 20 minutes 5 years ago.
Well, you got to throw.
I'll take it
in, haven't you?
Yeah, you got to go Alexis, Jack, Giroud, Theo. It's the centre backs are the only real issue because they're all shit.
I'll throw Mertesacker in there.
Huh?
I'll throw Mertesacker in there.
Yeah, Mertesacker's the one, and who else have we lost? I don't know if we've lost anyone.
Was Vermaelen in the last 5 years before that?
No, he wasn't, because he left the year we won the first FA Cup.
Oh, that's right.
Not the first FA Cup, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just one centre back spot. I think the rest of the team, especially if you include Diaby, obviously.
Who did you have up front? Who did you have up front?
Giroud. Giroud,
Giroud, yes, of course.
Which was our front three for about 4 years.
Yeah, of course. Could not forget about Giroud.
Oh, Santi. Cazorla. We missed Santi there.
Yeah, Cazorla.
There you go. Team done.
Yep. That wasn't hard. Okay. Come December. No, next week you'll ask the last 15 years or something. Vish asks, come December, who in your opinion should be our targets, and in what position would we strengthen in order to play Emery's way? do allow players to be anonymous in games or liabilities for the rest of the season, or do we become ruthless and cut out the cancer? Tony?
Wow, cancer.
We're not going to make wholesale changes in January. So, I mean, that idea is crazy in itself. Position-wise,
yeah, he did
look,
say
we
December,
all knew
didn't
what
he?
we all knew what we was calling for at the back end of the window, which ended 10 days ago or 14 days ago now. We wanted a winger and a centre-back. That nothing has changed in his 2 weeks. We need a winger and a centre-back. Yes, there's more we need beyond that, but you've got to get the main issues sorted first. And as I said, we all know what we wanted 2 weeks ago. So have I seen anything that tells me that's changed? No. I don't know if you have. But I've not seen anything that says, oh, actually, we don't need a right winger and a centre-back. What we really need is X, Y, and Z.
I think I see where it's coming from. And I can imagine it's looking at a centre mid to replace Xhaka.
Well, yeah, look, I get it. You can want improvements on Ozil and Xhaka and Hector and whoever else. But you've surely got to look at the areas we're lacking completely before you're trying to improve other areas. You're only as strong as your weakest link. Any chain is only as strong as its weakest link. So there is no point improving on a Xhaka or an Ozil if we still have no width on the right. We've still got 2 slow centre-backs and we're trying to defend on the halfway line. So there's football, I think, and Schwinn says this all the time, and I used to think he was talking shit, but he always says football is so much deeper than just who you buy and sell. And it really is. Like, as soon as we have problems, everyone looks to, who are we going to buy? How about we defend 40 yards deeper? How about Hector stops being shit? How about our system when we're playing out from the back, we do it more like City, who give themselves 15 options, where we give ourselves Socrates and Mustafi. Nothing against them, but they're the only options we have when we have a goal kick. So you can't just fix everything by going, we need this player. It don't work like that.
Craig asks, and he looks after the Clock End Talk blog. So Craig, I'll go to Schwinn. Can Arsenal actually defend? I'll be listening to your verdict, guys.
We're not great at it, and it doesn't help that we are playing our back four at the halfway line. You have to put your players in a position where they will succeed. I'm tired of saying this again and again, and I understand that Emery is trying something new. But there has to be recognition from Emery, and I might be slated here because I'm saying something negative about him at the moment, so new, so early into the season. But how do you not see that someone like Socrates and Mustafi and Managerial and Hector, who's lost some running power, they're not going to be able to cope up with 50 yards behind them. On top of that, you throw in Peter Cech in there, who, by my own admission, I thought he was going to stick around for one more season and start. But he's not going to be able to chase down balls. You're better off playing Leno there and sacrificing a bit of the shot stopping for some of the pace Leno has and the ability to play the ball. I don't know whether it's the opposition that we witnessed in the first 2 games, which is obviously very good, or it's a bit of stubbornness. I'm not sure which it is. It's very early to speculate on that, but you're only going to be able to defend if you are set up to defend. And right now, neither are the case.
I was just thinking. Sorry, Schwinn, and I know it's after the thought that Chelsea, we lost the game. But what would your thoughts be, Holding and Mavropanos? Starting them to and giving them a go.
I think the pace is still an issue. I think Rob Holding isn't the quickest. And I haven't seen enough of Dino's to really comment on his pace. I mean, the one instance that obviously comes to mind for obvious reasons is when he brought down Vardy. But then again, Vardy is one of the quickest players in the league, so that's not the right benchmark. I anyways think he's someone who's more of not the aggressor, but the one who sits back and mops up. But I would argue Callum Chambers is quicker than Rob Holding, and maybe Tony's better equipped to answer this question since he's at the stadium. But I don't
Chambers
think we have
isn't on the table
now.
Also, he's gone.
Right, but I was going to question whether we should have sold him then, because he's definitely better on the ball than all of our center backs. I think he's the most equipped to play out from the back because he's very good at moving the ball forward and then making himself available again. None of our center backs do that.
Hey, Schwinn. I know you got a bad memory like me, but remember me and you were actually saying that'll be the last time Chambers will put on an Arsenal shirt.
That was Osterson's, wasn't it? Good Lord. And he conceded a goal like that against City, against David Silva at the opening day of the season too. But again, I'm talking about his quality on the ball. I'm not talking about his defensive ability. Since we're talking about giving our players the ability, to play the ball back, play the ball around, and at the same time have the pace to be able to recover. And I don't think we have the defenders to do that. That's one of the reasons I was hoping we would go for 2 center backs in the summer. And and bolster that area instead of going in for a goalkeeper. I mean, can you imagine if we spent that 20 million on Leno, instead of doing that, we just added it to our Socrates budget, maybe half of it, and went in for someone younger who has much more capability in terms of pace? Maybe they would have made wrong decisions, and you learn from that. But at least we would have been better equipped to play 30, 40 yards ahead of our goalkeeper. No?
No, I agree. What about you, Tony?
Well, my issue with this pair is that they are probably our 2 best centre-backs. There's discussion there, but they're probably our 2 best centre-backs. They're also our 2 worst equipped centre-backs, and I'm including Chambers in this, at playing the system we're playing. Because they both sort of rattled under pressure. Socrates is playing on the wrong side, which is not going to help anyone. If you're going to play out from the back, as I said before, I dare say Holding, Mavropanos and Chambers are all better at playing out from the back than the 2 we've got. And we seem to be focusing more on that than the actual defending. The way we're playing, it feels like he might as well play centre midfielders there. And I'm not suggesting that. And of course, I'm being over the top. But that's almost what it's like. It's like we're worrying about ball playing abilities first. And if you're going to do that, the other 2 are better. Are they as good defenders? As I said, probably not. It's very hard to judge Dinos. We don't know. I said when everyone was raving about him last season, I wanted to see him rattled to see what happened, and he got rattled and he got sent off. So it's still the jury's still out, as much as people don't want to believe it is. The jury's definitely still out on him. And Holding, we know, has got a mistake in him, but with Holding, he's a very confident young boy, and he will get on the ball. And Schwinn just said obviously Chambers will give it and take it back. I feel Holding will do that more than anyone else. He's happy to step into midfield, despite never playing there. He's just so confident. It's a bit like one of my friends loves Maitland-Niles just because he's the most confident person I've ever seen. And I'm not saying he should play at centre back, but that confidence helps if you want. And it's the same with Guendouzi. What a lot of people have been impressed about is that he always wants the ball.
Well, he's hungry. He's hungry for the ball. He's hungry to get involved. And
as I think. And he's willing to accept it, which is a thing. A lot of times, especially young players, you see him hiding, and no one will notice. But apart from the player with the ball, the player with the ball will think, "Oh fuck, he's not an option. He's, you know what I mean? He's hiding behind their centre midfielder," and no one will notice. It will never get picked up on, and no one will moan. But with players like Guendouzi, and I think Holding's got a similar thing, obviously for a centre back, that they're more than happy to take the ball under pressure. The only issue is it's going to lead to mistakes. If you take the ball under pressure so many times, every now and then you're going to get caught because it's a percentages game. And that's why I don't really want to big up Tottenham players, but the reason people rate Moussa Dembele, the Tottenham midfielder, is because he'll take the ball under pressure every time and he very, very rarely loses it. Yeah. That's the level you're aiming for. And I know we've gone from centre back to centre midfielder, but I'm saying that's the type of thing that wanting the ball is probably more important than many other things. And that's what Holding gives you. He will take the ball under all situations. And as I said, most of the time, or not most of the time, sometimes it's not a good option, especially as a centre-back, because he'll take it when he's under so much pressure, lose it, and it will be catastrophic. But under this system, I'm surprised Emery hasn't considered using him more because of how much he does want the ball.
I'll give you a prediction, Craig. These young players, Mafropanos, Holding, they'll actually start in Europa League. They'll play well in Europa League. And we'll beat some fucking, I don't know, some shit team, and they'll play these young players. By the end of the season, I can guarantee you, Arsenal fans will be asking for Mafropanos and Holding to starting over bloody Mustafi and Socrates.
That will happen by the end of October.
It'll happen for sure.
Yeah. Because we'll play some farmers in Europa League. We'll keep a clean sheet. They'll look like Rolls Royces. And then Mustafi will make a stupid mistake against someone, and everyone go, "Oh, but look how well Holding's doing."
Yeah.
Or look how well Dinos is doing.
Or something. Yeah.
Yeah, it won't be. Look, it's very short term. We remember last year, and as I said, I'm a big Maitland-Niles fan, but I wasn't then. But we said last year he played one or two good games. He played 1 or 2 good games in the Europa League, and suddenly he should have been starting every week. We all remember that.
Yeah.
And now you don't hear that anymore. It's just everything's so reactionary. And that's as you said, you're right. But I think by saying the end of the season, I think as soon as they have a good game in the Europa League or Carabao Cup,
it'll probably, So you're saying probably. I probably went too long. Jonas 82 Schwinn, you with us, buddy?
Yes, sir.
What's the most positive you can say about Emery after our first 2 games?
Guendouzi, for one. I think he had a decent game against City. People were very excited about the caliber he showed against the top team in the land. And what I liked about yesterday was how he struggled to get into the game. But once he did, first of all, he kept trying to get into the game, which I thought was very, very good. And once he did, he didn't look back. He was very happy to show himself yet again. Had a couple of very, very good passes, lots of emotion on the pitch, and of course went on to thank the traveling fans at the end of the day. I also really like, as discussed earlier, how Emery is bold with his changes. He's trying to impact the game from the outside, which we've called out for a long time. So those are the 2 that jump out at me.
I'll be honest, I nearly choked on me cup of tea when I seen him fucking... Shaka went off at half time. I went, what the fuck's going on here? Not used to seeing this.
Yeah, definitely not under Arsene, because yeah.
And then Ozil come off and I fucking near choked again. I said, holy fuck.
I checked my phone for a message from you at that point, but I knew you probably wouldn't, just because how tense things were at the moment.
At 2 o'clock in the morning, mate, the last thing I'm going to worry about was that. I was fucking trying to stay awake to watch it.
But it's positive in those regards, because you can only do so much as a manager, and at least he's trying to make things happen. I also like his press conference. I think first of all, he's a very, very polite guy.
I'm just before you go about his press conference, look, do me a favour, get a Spanish translator in, right? Speak fucking Spanish, and then get the translator to talk to us, and we can all understand what he's saying, because I have absolutely no idea what he's saying.
Yeah, Tez, but we suffer the same when we're speaking with you, So I think an Aussie translator is the one we need first before I go on to find a Spanish one.
Okay,
but he's just a very, very polite guy. Every time he has an interview or a press conference, he starts by greeting someone, which is not something you see in the Premier League. And I think he's a very focused guy in terms of how calm and composed he is. He doesn't hold back. He'll let you know what he's saying. He lets you know what he wants from the players, which is, different than what we've seen in the past, where we're just defending them and then probably letting them know things behind closed doors. But I like it. I think he's letting fans know how he wants things, and I think that's a big factor in terms of how much liking we've taken to him, despite not having any points in the first 2 games.
Yeah, okay. Bring on the Spanish translator, please. Tony.
Searching for one on Google right now.
Tony, what's your positive, mate? Because you're talking about Emery. So what's the positive you can say about Emery out of the last 2 games?
Well, yeah, I think Schwinn's just kind of stole my thunder, but the boldness with substitutions, it's brilliant. I mean, look, we've just been so stuck in a rut with Wenger that we knew sort of 65 minutes substitutions were going to come, and you could sit there and you'd know who was going to come off and how the system would change. And you still can to an extent, but that's because of the positions of the players you have. You know where they're going to go on to play. But the timings of them, and I mean, when Ramsey was standing on the sideline, obviously we can see him getting changed to come on in the crowd. And we're all standing there talking, who's going off? Is it Ozil? Is it Mickey? Is it whoever? Was it Guendouzi? Will it be Iwobi? Whereas before, we would just go, oh, he's getting stripped to come on. This guy's going to go off and we're going to go this. So just the unpredictableness of both the timings and the replacements, I think it shows a willingness to change the game in play. Whereas I think Wenger he didn't tend to change the game in play. He would just try and keep fitness more than anything. So he'd pick these best 11, and when someone got tired, he'd change it for someone who wasn't tired, obviously being a sub, and that was it. So I really do like the unpredictability, I guess, of the substitutions.
Yeah, fair enough.
Well, first is if you win, if you lost. We lost. Is for that the result is important. Then is one process in the 90 minute today, the first half.
What did he say? I can't understand him.
It might be the Spanish in me, or it might be you being a idiot. But I can understand what everybody says. It might not make perfect sense, but I know, like when I speak Spanish, I've got friends. Well, I used to have friends that couldn't speak a word of English, and I could get by, but I might not say, "Oh, shall we go to the shops?" I'd say, "We go shops." And if you translate it word for word, of course, I'm a fucking moron. But you can get by, and when you're just learning the language, that's fine, and that's what he's doing. At least he's trying.
No,
he's trying to endear himself to fans.
Mate, in all honesty, I'm only taking the piss, and it actually look. I've seen him on the TV, and it's not too bad. It was when he was on the radio, and that's where it type of rung my alarm bell. I went, what the fuck? Who's that? What did he say? That's what it was. Yeah, but yeah. Anyway.
Lukaku missed a sitter.
Who? Yeah,
Lukaku.
sorry. I was just flicking around. Shit, I've got to host the podcast, boys. Early days from Jonas82. I am still optimistic we can end up top 4. Are you guys? Schwinn?
I am. I want to be. But, as I predicted early in the, in our preseason pod, I don't think we have it quite yet in us to finish top 4. And it's because I think we're going to concede a lot. I think by the end of September, on a very average level, I think we'll be able to embody some of the gameplay Emery wants us to play. I think we'll be much better at passing the ball from the back and getting people in stride on the ball. But there's no solution to playing a high line of defense with these personnel. And as Tony said, I don't see us bringing anyone else either in January, December, especially not a center back. If anything, it would be a white player, I would imagine. So,
I reckon old Eagle Eye or Diamond Eye, whatever his name is, he'll have his eye on somebody. And I don't think it'll be a big player. It'll be one, like a Guendouzi,
Which is fine, is absolutely fine. But
yeah.
I think, it doesn't matter how old you are, how experienced you are. When you come to the Premier League, or whenever you switch leagues, right? Especially when you come to the Premier League, there's a certain bedding in period. And let's not forget that December, January, and February are the toughest months to play in England. The weather, the schedule, it's very hard to hit the ground running. And whoever you are, you will need some time. And the younger you are, you'll need more time. So, you may not be able to fix that right away. So I want us to finish in the top 4. Of course I do, but I just don't.
I can't remember. What did I say in the pre one? Probably I did say.
Did you say?
I think
you said 3rd, didn't you?
3rd, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Look, if we can get a good run of wins, if they can start adapting to his style and what he wants from his players, it's still a possibility. Never going to say never.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What about you, Tony?
Even the way we reacted yesterday, just quickly, sorry, Tony, but even the way we reacted yesterday, missing those sitters, but we kept going. That shows a lot of character, and that's something we've been accused of not having in the past, which I've disagreed with. But at least it's up for display now that we are pushing ourselves despite missing some sitters.
Yeah, agree. Tony?
I wouldn't say optimistic, but I wouldn't say pessimistic either. I think we have a chance. I don't think much has changed after 2 games. I'd imagine not many teams are going to pick up points from City and Chelsea. Look, we're not a million miles off Chelsea, and they're one of the 6 teams. Being at home gives you an advantage. We've lost by 1 goal. We've missed a load of chances. So you can almost say it's a 50-50 game. Being obviously, as I said, if it was the other way around, if we was at home, you'd think a few more things would be in our favour. So we're not far off where we need to be. As I said, I'm not optimistic. I'm not saying we're definitely going to finish top 4, but I'm also not the other side of it saying we're definitely going to miss out. There's a chance. We're up there. We're in with a shout, and I think that's all you can be after 2 games.
Yeah, Addy was pretty crucial. he was adamant, wasn't he? Top 4.
Well, no, I mean, he wasn't adamant we were going to finish there. He was adamant that Emery shouldn't keep his job if we didn't.
That's right. Yeah.
He didn't say we're definitely going to. He just said if we don't, he said that's
his
bare minimum of his expectations.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's his par. Did I say that on here last week? I said that to someone and it sounded weird.
What, par or bar?
Yeah, no, par. I was trying to explain that.
Yeah, that was on here.
Yeah, it was. I thought so.
I don't remember.
No, there's a shot.
You're only the host. You're not supposed to be listening to us.
COYG chat. Come on, you gooners. Chat is asked Schwinn, if you were the head coach. Oh, fucking hell, please. Would you continue to play a formation which will accommodate Ozil? Number 10, roll 4-2-3-1 or play 4-3-3 and then bench or redeploy Ozil on the wing?
I'm glad I got this question because I know, my Ozil propaganda lives pretty large. But, I said it before in our preseason pod and the pods before that I'm very happy to change our formation. And I think that's a need, that a formation and the roles need to change depending on your opponent and depending on whether you're playing them home or away. And if Mesut Ozil is surplus to requirements on a given day, whether that's Old Trafford away from home or at the Etihad or something, I'm happy to bench him. No one takes bigger priority than the club and the result on the day. So it's even if the question had gone Xhaka in him or anyone else, my answer would have been the same.
Kurnos. I think it's time we stop going on about Guendouzi being revelation every game, when for me he's nailed down the starter. Thoughts? Also Schwinn, Ozil has to be dropped. Can you guys see a way of him fitting in Emery's system? Well, he's asked Schwinn one question, and Tony, we'll go with you on the Guendouzi, mate. And Tony's not with us.
Yeah, he is. Tony muted his mic. I said it last week, and I said it again on the live callers. Just in case Tez forgets to edit this properly, please put the live callers before this, because Schwinn as well. For me, we've got to stop getting out of he's good for a not just him, but I'm using him as an example. He's good for a 19-year-old. At Arsenal, we don't want that. We don't want good for a 19. We just want good. Like, I don't want him to say, he done well considering he's 19. I don't want considerations. I just want players to do well. And yesterday he did that. Yesterday, age didn't come into it. And that's probably one of the biggest compliments you can pay him. He played very well in a Premier League game, and no one thought, yeah, he's young. I understand when he makes mistakes, that's part of the excuse. But we can't be going into every game thinking, he's done well for his age. Does that mean, he was only a 6 out of 10, but because he's 19, he's an 8 out of 10? Because that isn't good enough. And as I said, this is not a criticism of him because I don't think he's done that, but it's a mould we need to get out of. So I kind of agree with the question. Who was it? Kinos? Did you say?
Kurnos, yeah.
So, yeah. I have to agree with him that at some point we've just got to look at him as a player, not as a 19-year-old. He's just a player in an Arsenal shirt with his name and number on the back. Nothing else comes into it.
Yeah. Okay, Schwinn, second half of the question. Also, Schwinn, Ozil has to be dropped. Can you guys see a way of him fitting in Emery's system? So more so, don't worry about the drop bit, but can you see him fitting into Emery's system?
I mean, it circles back to that same point, right? Why do you change formation depending on the opponent in order to better tackle them and better challenge them? In a game where you're sitting very deep and not attacking a whole lot, where you have the space to attack in behind when you do have the counter, you may not need Mesut Ozil. You don't need that precision pass, a 5-inch window or something. You have a lot of ground to attack. So in those games, you can probably sub him or not start him at all. I think where we struggle with Emery's system is that we don't know Emery's system in terms of how flexible it is at the moment. He's not the greatest at pressing, but what he's very good at is positioning himself where he doesn't have to press a whole lot. He covers passing lanes very well as well. But the system itself is not very cohesive yet. It's not very telekinetic yet. So telepathic, I'm sorry. So it's too early for me to give an answer on that because we don't know. But what I know for sure is that he is droppable. And in certain games, right off the back, I can say that he should be dropped because he hasn't proved that he can play in those games as of now.
Just to take a stab at that question, I would like to see us try a 4-3-1-2. And I'm someone that isn't trying to shoehorn Lacazette into the team every week, as you and regular listeners will know. But I think it could suit everyone involved. Lacazette could then come short and get his touches on the ball that he likes, and he would take a defender with him, which leaves space for Aubameyang to spring in behind. It gets Ozil in at 10. You get 2 holders, and Ramsey, I'd probably suggest. So then if your fullbacks attack, one of your 2 holders can cover that flank. Ramsey can bomb on and use his late runs. And also, if we're trying to play out short, you've got 4 defenders and 3 midfielders that are all well capable of coming in short. Obviously, you've got the keeper taking the goal kick. So we could have a goal kick with 8 options plus a long ball to Aubameyang. So you then got 9 options instead of the 2 we've got at the moment. I would be I don't think he'll do it, but I'd be very interested and I'd really like to see us try that.
Okay.
I think where we might struggle with that is the amount of width we have, which obviously, as you said, that will take away some of the wide players, which, we don't play them wide anyway.
Look at yesterday. Yeah, this is what I'm getting to. You look at yesterday and all the width came from the fullbacks anyway. So you're keeping the same width that we've already got, plus getting more players in arguably more useful positions. The other thing... go on, because it's a different point I'm going to make. So.
Yeah, just quickly, I think the problem with that is that the way he wants to play out of the back, right? Those wide players, our fullbacks, are only going to be wide up once we reach that position. He doesn't start the fullbacks very high.
But if you've got Ramsey, Xhaka, and say Guendouzi or Torreira, whoever it is of the 3 midfielders, then you've got 3 extra options coming in anyway. And what I think we lack is that clipped ball from a goal kick where
absolutely
they can clip it out wide. So I think you're actually giving yourself more options by taking the fullbacks away or taking at least one of them away.
Yeah, and I see the merits of the system because if you have someone like a Ramsey in there, then when you do have the ball a bit higher up the field, then he can add numbers forward. And the good thing about Lacazette and Aubameyang is that they might not excel on the wings, but they're happy there. They have the quality there to survive there. So
if one needs to go wide, the other way it's fine, and the other one takes up the 9 position from. Do you know what I mean? If the ball goes into the channel, Aubameyang can chase it, and Lacazette becomes a 9.
Exactly. So I see the merits of the system, and I'd be intrigued as well because you're nothing if not open to ideas. So I'm just trying to understand why we haven't done it so far, but it's so early into the season that we haven't really seen too many systems yet, have we?
No, and look, it's not foolproof. Every system has its positives and negatives. So I'm not saying do this and we're gonna be the best team ever. It's just something I'd like to see us try. I think it actually suits our players. I think, especially under Wenger, and I'm not labelling this criticism at Emery yet, we spent too long playing a formation that didn't suit our players, and I don't want to see that carrying on with this. But I feel if we keep playing 4-2-3-1, it may do unless we end up very, very narrow. And the smaller teams, or the teams that just come to the Emirates for a point, are going to quite enjoy a narrow Arsenal because it's quite easy to defend against. You don't have to worry about the flanks. So it'll be interesting. As I said, I don't think he will do it, but it would be something I'd like to see.
All right, boys, we're going to have to pump through here because otherwise we're going to get it for about 2.5 hours. Sarvesh, were you happy with the team selection? The only thing, Xhaka is good at his long passing and a 19-year-old is doing it better than him, so should be starting for us. I'm a big fan of Ozil, and he has been very poor in the last 2 matches, but is he overrated? I don't think so. Come on, Gooners, chat. Is Bellerin the worst Arsenal right back you've ever seen, Tony?
Well, I just want to, on the last question, I'll just say quickly, what Granit doesn't get credit for is the speed that he moves the ball. And it's why when he does get through the passing lanes, and I agree, he gives the ball away way too much. But saying he's only good at long passing, when he does get the ball through the lines, he does it with such speed. And if you look at our goal, especially our second goal, he moved the ball around 2 or 3 times, but it was the speed he got it into the players. So there's that. On terms of is Hector the worst fullback, I mean, in a way, we've been blessed that people will say Abue, but Abue at fullback was good. It was only when he moved to the right he was useless. And you got to remember that we had a very good Hector for 2 seasons. This current Hector, for me, is useless. And yeah, he's probably the worst that's played there consistently. You can say Nico Yanaris played a half, and a few other players have played sparing minutes there, but as a consistent starter, he's probably the worst in my lifetime.
Okay.
I mean, look, we've been blessed. It's been Dixon, Loren, Sanya, and then Abue is the only one that's debatable. But as I said, the right back Abue was a good player.
Righto. Okay, boys. AFC Kangaroo ITK, you fucking queer cunt. Do you think we will go for a winger in January? Yeah, well, you're the ITK, bro. Go and check it out yourself.
Why have you submitted a question to your own podcast, Tez?
Oh, fucking not me. Fucking old AFC Kangaroo. Fuck me.
World's worst kept secret.
Yeah, it's all aimed at me, isn't it? Why aren't we getting more out of Aubameyang? Does he need Lacazette? I have complained since we signed him. We need a winger to break open play. The lack of this, I think, restricts Aubameyang. Says Scott. Anyone got a quick opinion on that?
Well, just very quickly to say, look, he missed the chances yesterday. He scores his chances. He gets 2 goals away at Stamford Bridge, and you go, wow, no striker's done that for 7 years for Arsenal. So I dare say not getting the best out of him is very, very strong and very reactionary. We gave him a platform yesterday, and unfortunately yesterday he missed those chances and he didn't take that platform. But I can't say we didn't get enough out of him.
Okay, Scott goes on to say, is it time to play a 5-3-2? Can Ozil fit into this team formation? Pressing, I don't think so, and I'm not convinced so far. Any thoughts, Schwinn? Just quickly.
No, again, hypothetical, so we'll wait to see that too early.
Can I just say Brighton are 2-0 up against Man United? I said that because it relates to us. Everyone's going on about this team's doing that. Can we keep up with United, blah, 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 because they're going to be a challenger for top 4. But we're 2 games in, and look, United could go on and win this game, but you know what I mean? You're trying to give predictions of where we're going to be at the end of the season after 180 minutes is crazy.
Early days, agreed with Mustafi, liability. Do you think Holding and Mafropanos will get the opportunity?
There we go.
And there it is.
There we go.
Bellerin was... Scott, he continues about... Did I mention about the Bellerin... With Bellerin awful and the centre of the fence to ease to turn, would you consider a back 5? I'd never want to see a back 5.
Can I just
see, I do like that question, though.
Yeah, I'll continue the question. With a right back, tempted, Liechtenstein, Holding, Socrates, Mafropanos, and Monreal. Back 5. Go, Tony.
Well, just one thing, and very rare, I'm going to slightly defend Hector. He wasn't good yesterday, and he's getting a lot of criticism. But I've seen people blame him for the first goal, which is absolutely ludicrous. Mkhitaryan was horrendous for the first goal. He saw Alonso run off him and just didn't really bother. And I moaned at Hector last week for not following his winger and trying to just hope someone else would do it. Yesterday he followed Willian and done his job, and somehow it's still his fault. Even for the 3rd goal, he stood off Hazard too much. And again, I've had this criticism of Arsenal ever since I've been watching Arsenal, and I assumed it was a Wenger thing, but maybe I'm wrong. Our fullbacks have never engaged wingers. We always back off until we get into our own area, and then we try and engage them. I don't know what it is. As I said, I assumed it was a Wenger thing. It obviously wasn't, because they're still doing it, or they're maybe still in a Wenger mould and Emery hasn't changed that yet. Maybe it's not, he hasn't noticed, but he's had bigger fish to fry. So Hector stood off Hazard for the 3rd goal. There's still other mistakes from other people, by the way, but maybe that's what he's instructed to do. I think it's stupid if it is, but years of watching Arsenal tells me that seems to be what the fullbacks do. In terms of a back 5, you say back 5 becomes a back 3 when you're attacking. I personally think we've played our best football in the last 2 years when we had a back 5. But what we also done when we had a back 5 was accepted we're not very good and played long. And it's why I've said it time and time again, we would not have won the FA Cup without Danny Welbeck, the year we beat City and Chelsea, because we went 5 at the back, accepted we're not very good, and hoofed it long for Danny Welbeck to chase all day and cause havoc, and then the players could could catch up with play. So while I think it's probably the best we've played in the last couple of years, it would be completely different if we was to play it now. So you can't base how we played back five at the back end of 2 years ago to how a back five would be now, and I don't think Emery would do it anyway.
Just after that goal that Brighton scored, Jose, he really is a weird cunt, isn't he? He's sitting there on the sideline. He's sitting on the sideline clapping. What the fuck? Who's he clapping at? Fucking weirdo.
Probably Paul Pogba.
Brighton score and he claps. Fucking hell. Manchester.
Maybe he's going to go sign Glenn Murray in January now.
Oh,
Bench Lukaku.
Hopefully,
it was the finish.
Hopefully Brighton fucking hold on, eh? Be Twitter meltdown for Manchester United fans shortly. Okay, AFC quick sot. Tough result, but what did you guys make of Iwobi's performances, and would you start him against West Ham over some of the bigger teams? I thought Iwobi wasn't too bad, actually. I thought he was pretty good. Would I like Iwobi starting every week, though? I'm not real sure about that one. Go, Tony.
I thought he was excellent, and to be honest, I think we've said on here many times his two biggest assets are he's quite good pressing for 60 minutes. He's not fit enough to keep it up, and he's also very good anti-press because he's very strong and he has the biggest arse in world football. So he gets the ball and sticks his arse out, and no one can get around him.
Is this bigger than Lacazette?
Yeah, for sure.
Really?
I thought Lacazette had that. Yeah.
I don't mean any racial offence by this. He has a real African arse.
To duck arse.
Like, it's ridiculous. He literally gets the ball and just sticks. I mean, he's a stocky boy anyway. I don't know. It always surprises me when I see him like really up close. Like if he comes over to where I'm sitting to pick up the ball for a throw on, or I was lucky enough to go to like a press conference last year where he was there. It always surprises me how big he is anyway. He's a lot bigger than people expect. But yeah, so his anti-press is very good. So I think that it's a weird one because the big games are kind of made for him, but he's usually so bad in the small games that you think, why the fuck's this kid playing in the big games?
It's all to do with how much time he has on the ball, isn't it? If you force him to make a decision, then he'll probably come out on the top. But if he's thinking, then he's gonna fuck up. Some might call that the Theo Walcott syndrome.
Yeah, but I think this is the issue that comes with him. He doesn't earn his place, but his place is probably needed against the bigger teams. So I don't know if I would start him against West Ham because I don't think it's the type of game that suits his skill set. And they're going to have a packed defence, which means he's going to be running at them with probably quite a lot of time. And as Schwinn just said, time isn't his friend. So although I would arguably say he was our best player yesterday, he was very close. And I mean, there's others that I wouldn't disagree with, but he was certainly up there. I don't know if I would start him against West Ham despite saying that. Well,
he had a great game, like we said. He had a good game, great game, however you want to word it. But he's likely to come out against West Ham and play like a busted ass, and that's just Iwobi. I don't know what by the way. Yeah. Oh, is it? Fuck. Yeah, righto. I'm waiting. Let's just sit in silence while I wait for this goal.
Well, I left it about 30 seconds before telling you, so you should be soon.
We'll sit in silence. Schwinn, you can just host for a minute.
Now, this is exhilarating podcasting, isn't it?
Yeah, it'd be good if you had a question Fred up.
Oh, okay. With Mickey and Iwobi both scoring, we can only assume they would start against West Ham. Do you keep Ozil and leave Lacazette on the bench, or bench Ozil and bring Lacazette in? Schwinn?
Look, can we just probably go to our starting 11s for the next game instead of tackling who's going to start and who's not individually at every question? I think it just save us a lot more time.
Yeah.
So I'll quickly go.
Man, you just scored.
Sorry, go on, Tez.
Breaking news, man. They just scored.
There you go. So I think the only change we'll see is we'll take off Iwobi and put on Lacazette.
Iwobi for Lacazette. Oh yeah, I don't mind that. But
not straight in terms of position.
Yeah,
I think that would be the only change in personnel. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say I would like Aubameyang on the left. I think if you're going to go that.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think Ramsey comes in as an extra goal threat especially with the chances we've missing. I wouldn't be surprised if it's for Mkhitaryan, because if Emery is looking at the game defensively, which he's known to do, Mkhitaryan had an awful defensive performance yesterday. I'm not saying his all-round game was terrible, but defensively it was pretty much as bad as I've seen from a winger. So I wouldn't be surprised, as much as I said I wouldn't like it, to see Ozil wide and Ramsey back in, but maybe not as high up as he was against City.
Okay, one last question and we're done, boys. And we do love your questions. We're just trying to get through them all, that's all. Brads, do you guys think it's time for Arsenal to cut their losses and sell some players who give us the same average to poor performances away from home in the big games? Bellerin, Xhaka, sorry Tez, Mustafi and maybe Ozil would be the ones I get rid of. What about you? Name replacements? I'll be honest, mate. I wouldn't get rid of anybody at this stage. If I had to choose in the summer, I would look for Mustafi and maybe Bellerin to exit. However, that'd be in the summer, so it is for the season for me. Come January, look, probably January. I like a January window if you've got to look for depth. If you've got a couple of players injured or something, and you think, oh, just shit, I need to bring in a bit of depth. That's about a January window for me, not a replacement. Tony, you want to touch quickly? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, this other thing that people keep going on about these big away games, we have 5 of them, right? So if you're saying the players are only not performing then, that gives us 33 other games. If you win 30 of them, you win the league. Simple as that. So I think there's so much, people worry so much about big games at times when they're in such a small minority. Yeah, it's brilliant to say we beat Tottenham, we beat United, we beat Chelsea. But in reality, the other 33 games far outweigh the big away games.
Yeah.
In terms of the players, look, we're not, as I've said it before, and you basically just said it then, we're not going to make wholesale changes during the season. We might bring in additions. If some superior star quality becomes available, like Aubameyang did, we will do it. But in reality, the January window isn't for changes. I said it earlier, and you just said it then. I can't really add much more to that.
Yep, okay. Listen, thank you everybody for your questions. You can get them into us at clockend_talk. I'll just go quickly through clockendtalk.blogspot.com. Savvy has put up his ratings, whether you agree or disagree. Quick little cap on it, and I won't go through them all, but Czech, he given 8, and Guendouzi got an 8, as well as, who was the other 8? Mkhitaryan got an 8.
Mkhitaryan.
So they're your top players, but you go through and please comment, and thank you, Savvy. He always does our ratings, and Craig and the boys.
Just on my part, I heavily disagree with Mkhitaryan getting an 8.
I was going to say the same, but I thought each to their own, and that was his opinion. So.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying he's wrong. Well, I am saying he's wrong on virtue of me being right, but no. I'm not saying he's wrong. I'm saying I have a very, very different opinion.
Yeah, so you can...
And that you're saying he's wrong.
He's wrong.
Yeah, wrong. I mean that. I don't mean it from a bad place. I'm not saying he's clueless, he's an idiot or whatever. I'm just saying I think he's wrong. Look, cool. Alex Ferguson, Wenger, Mourinho, they're the best managers that have ever lived or ever been in this country. I'll still say I think they're wrong at times. So I don't mean it as a harsh thing. And they would say I'm wrong every time, and I probably am.
Yeah.
As I've said it before and I've said it again, opinions are like arseholes. We've all got one and they're all full of shit.
Sounds like, yep. So anyway, yeah, that's what I was talking about. Clockendtalk.blogspot.com. So the boys do a fantastic job there as well. Boys, before we wrap it up, we've give everybody fucking plenty of content tonight. I'm going to start charging for this shit. I wonder if people will pay to listen to my shit.
No.
No. Well, Tony, I'm always right, mate. So when you're always right, people are going to start paying.
Oh, fucking, I wouldn't listen to paid TV. And even my dog's bored.
I wouldn't listen to fucking paid shit either. Quick prediction, West Ham, boys. Schwinn? Don't worry about
4-1 to the Arsenal.
Don't worry about line-up. I think we've touched on line-ups and shit. 4-1.
For sure.
4-1
to... Yeah.
Here we go, Tony.
10-0.
Fuck, mate. When are you ever
I
gonna
actually,
have
in my head, I had a real prediction, and then I thought, no, why break the habit of a lifetime?
Oh, come on. Go on. Give the fans what they want.
We have no fans.
Well, I was talking about the fans of Clock and Talk.
Yeah, we have no fans.
Anyway, you can talk to Tony at @clockend_talk. Oh, my prediction will be, what do you say, Schwinn? 4-1.
That's right.
I'm going to go 3-0. Arsenal. Let's get this
Love it.
sorted. Okay, thank you for listening. Thank you for downloading. And later, boys.
Adios.
Thanks, lads.
Cheers.
See you, cunts.